lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
And a half-second lead. Oh, but just a quick car in the background.
He has it. Oh, he's round on the last lap.
There's a massive accident.
Next to the inside, what a move, what a move.
A very good evening to all of you watching, if you're watching live or if you're watching this back at some point down the track because you're a bit busy tonight. Welcome to the stream and welcome to Albert Park in Melbourne for round 2 of the Automobilista Australia or AMS Oz Super2 series. We're here for races 2 and 3, the sprint format this time around, having a sabbatical, I guess, a very short sabbatical from the first format that we ran back at Adelaide last week, which was a 175k endurance or feature race mode, and how the driver's going to transition from the longer format to the shorter format. We're going to find out in just a few moments. As per what we went through last week, my name is Steve DeVries. For those of you who know me, my name is usually Nether, and it gives me great pleasure to actually welcome to the box for the very first time for his AMS Oz debut. We referred to this man last week on the broadcast as a walking encyclopedia of all things supercar. Hans Brunswick, good to be with you again, mate.
Oh, g'day, Steve-o. Oh, always a pleasure to be with you in the physical or the metaphorical commentary box. We're just sitting in, watching his impressive setup. Unfortunately, my own computer is a bit too slow, a bit like my driving. But, hopefully my knowledge is a little bit better than my driving and my computer at the moment.
Well, I wouldn't say you're driving slow because you certainly got the opportunity to sample a GT car a couple of months ago back at the Phillip Island round of the Aussie Driver Search. So I wouldn't say you're slow, but you definitely know a lot about racing and all things racing. It's great to have you in the box for the first live stream, I guess, is what we call it. We've worked together in the real world. Now we get to work together, albeit from my office at the moment, watching some guys go around a track and calling some great action. We had a really, really good race last week, and a pair of sprint races tonight. Should be a cracker.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's actually good that they have the 60k, 260k races at Albert Park because you spend most of the lap here turning. So 16 corners, I think it's 55 or 60% of the lap you actually spend turning around here. So because there are no proper straights around this circuit, consequence of that is that overtaking is really hard. And I think it'll be interesting to see it. I mean, given the tyre wear, if we can actually make these tyres last, because if you're getting a bit brave and trying to make your way up through the pack if you've had poor qualifying, you're going to spend a lot of time using up the tyre and you're not actually going to get past anyone. And we saw that in the F1 race on the weekend, actually. So, it just shows the importance of qualifying.
It certainly does. And as we bring up the track stats for you all tonight, there it is, the what we like to call the good, bad and the ugly of it. The length, and we've got 2 races tonight in the sprint format, so 2 12-lap sprints, so just over 60 k's each, or around 63.5k by there. 16 corners, as you mentioned. We've got 6 to the left, we've got 10 to the right. The tyre wear's just set on normal. The good thing, as you mentioned, it's the circuit itself is a fairly easy circuit to drive. There's a few bumps that have talked about resurfacing it, but in terms of its overall drivability, there's no real major elevation changes. It's a relatively simple layout in a clockwise format. But the real sticking point, which you just alluded to as well, is the overtaking commitment that's required at a circuit like this. We've seen it time and time again, the level of passing that's needed. You have to commit to the overtaking and commit to it very, very early. I mean, primary spots down at turns 1, down at turns 3, second to last corner, and I think probably also turn 13 as well, if you come off that fast 11 and 12 chicane. There you probably have 4, I guess, traditional passing zones. You might want to throw turn 9 into there as well, which is sort of a bit of a tight one, but the overtaking is going to be so crucial tonight if you want to advance your position. You've got to do it, and you've got to do it cleanly and quickly.
Yeah, definitely. You just need to get down the inside, make it as clean as possible. Braking absolutely on the threshold. You're absolutely pushing the tyre to its grip limit, and you turn the corner, and you can't brake 1 millimetre later. And hopefully you got the mid-corner speed. I mean, sometimes we see people go, up the inside of the last corner, and that's basically suicide for their run up the main straight because, big main straight. You get a poor run out of that corner, you're definitely going to lose a couple of spots by the time you get to turn 1, and then and then some if someone's overlapping with you. So being curve straights in especially the turn 9, 10, 11, it's actually a lot of trouble. It's very deceptive. You can get down the inside, and then you'll go down the inside at turn 11, and then you might end up, hip and shouldering someone off, and they have to straight line turn 12, and starts to get messy when you get down to turn 13, and obviously the fireworks happen when you get down there.
Certainly does. Well, have a look at the quick calendar just to see where we are in the grand scheme of things. So there it is. Last week we managed to get around the streets of Adelaide with not too much carnage, actually. We were kind of worried that we'd have a little bit more carnage than usual, but in actual fact it wasn't too bad. And there we are. The second one on the list is the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit with 2 sprint races, and then a trip across the Tasman in a couple of weeks' time for Symmons Plains Raceway. Looking at a couple of new faces hopefully will join us. Brian Walsh obviously watching tonight as well, local Taswegian I believe, so looking forward to getting out there for his home race hopefully. But we have a look at the driver points. So this was the points that came through after the first round, and the man on top there, he drove a superb race, qualified dead last, came all the way from the front to the back and drove superbly to grab 300 championship points. And he leads the Pro A standings at the moment with the way that's all been calculated. Phil Boak getting home in second and leading the Pro B standings. Your lead Pro Am runner, Cam Rutledge, he's up in 4th place. Did a fantastic job there in the CRE Motorsport Commodore. And the lead rookie down there as well is Steve Burko in the Top Gear Racing. It's an FG Falcon, but it's got a BMW grille on it, and he's already asked questions about whether or not he can actually change that. He's got to wait till next week to get his new livery through and get rid of that one. So there's still plenty of points available on the table, only at the very beginning of the racing, and we've still got a long way to go. The pair of sprints tonight are worth 150 points apiece. It's a maximum of 300 points per night. Follows the usual supercars points standings and points structure. So plenty of opportunity for drivers to bank some points, especially for some drivers that didn't actually get any points last week.
Yeah, the big one is Brendan Foley, PBF Race Engineering, Car 1, our defending champion, in fact. So big fat zero for his recent race at Adelaide. Very unfortunate because he was up there. He was definitely going to get second or third. He was fighting with his teammate Phil Boak. But Hathway, too strong, 300 points out of the weekend, just the single race format. But let's see how he goes in the sprint race format. Might be a little bit different. Hopefully, Brenton Foley's sorted out his network dramas, and I think you've alluded to before that he's actually gone to a different router. So, fingers crossed he can actually get through this race because we want to see the 2 PBF cars and Mitchell Hathway. It's going to be an absolute cracker of a run, especially with these sprint races.
Yeah, you're certainly right there, Hans. Well, let's go over and see what's happening just at the back end here of the practice session, and not very long to go there, as you can see. And the man at the top, surprise, surprise, we were actually just mentioning him, Brenton Foley, and look at the time, minute 53.1, so really wringing the neck of that car. He's actually been doing some qualifying runs. A couple of familiar names are up the top there, usual combatants. So Jamie Snow in for his first run. He's, believe it or not, 8/10 off of Brenton Foley's pace at the moment, and our winner from last time out at Adelaide, Mitchell Hathway. So doesn't look like he's probably pulled a qualifying run out just yet. He's just on a second behind Foley, but we're going into qualifying very, very shortly. In actual fact, in about 52 seconds. So the cards will all be laid out on the table as to where they all stand. Now, it is going to be a private qualifying session, same as what we had in the previous run at Adelaide. So we always seem to be cutting to people doing ridiculous things in terms of going across the grass or the gravel in this case. So we'll find somebody else. But the qualifying format was deliberately designed for Adelaide with the private format, just to allow people enough time to get around the track and do it at their own pace and not have to worry about anybody else balking anyone else's run. So it makes it a bit difficult for us to pick up on who's going to be where on the standings, but we'll do our best to give you a rundown of who is the who in the zoo when it comes to being at the top and the bottom of the timesheets. The important thing to know about the private qualifying session is you've effectively got 2 flying laps to get the job done. So you have an out lap, you have your 2 flying laps, and you have an in lap. And if you butcher it, you are basically starting at the rear.
Yeah, the private qualifying session, it's amazing because you actually don't get the benefit of a draft, especially with a big long circuit like sorry, not Phillip Island. It's almost the same length, but just down the road actually. So Albert Park, it's important to get a draft on the main straight and around the curve straight, turn 9, 10. But as we see Philip Boak coming across the line now, he's only it's only 0.1 of a second off his PB. So he's only done a few laps in this practice session. Let's see how he goes in qualifying session. So basically, yeah, 2 opportunities. You've got an out lap and two flying laps and then an in lap. So and you got to do it basically that way. You can't walk to pits or anything, or else it'll disallow your time. So we got to stay on it. And you've got 10 minutes to complete those laps, and yeah, you just got to give it a red hot go and squeeze the lemon and see if you can squeeze 10 tenths out.
Absolutely. Well, 10 minutes are on the clock, and as you can see up there, got 4 laps to get this job done. We've got a good turnout tonight as well. So we had 20 drivers contest the first round in Adelaide, and we've got 18 at the moment. So not to say we'll get a couple of late entries, but good to see that we've got another good turnout for Super 2, becoming a very, very popular series actually, and we know that not everybody's going to be able to make it to every race, and already a queue of people asking about getting involved in this series. So hopefully we will see plenty more drivers, or plenty of full grids I actually should say, over the coming months as the calendar winds down. Right, so the clock has started. The next question for us is to work out who is on the circuit. And I think the first man we have on the circuit is actually JP Courier. So here he is. Now I hope I'm pronouncing your surname right, JP. If I'm not, come and grab me after the night's racing is over, and we'll make sure that we are pronouncing it. And I'm going to ask Hans when it comes to state series about pronouncing people's names, and Paul and Michelle Javots, as opposed to other guys that say Grisvots, when I got it right straight out of the gun, and guys that have been doing it for a long time still can't get it right.
Oh, which is always good fun when you've got an interesting name to pronounce. But JP Courier, I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with your pronunciation, Stephen, for the sake of consistency. But yeah, first car out in circuit at the moment in the guest car, the number 14 Tim Slade Freightliner car, and he's actually doing. He actually is getting on with it quite early, so he's straight into it, and his out lap, he's already started his warm up for his tyres, and he's onto it already in the ZB Commodore.
Yeah, he is, and look, we've only got 10 minutes on the clock too, and it's a lap time. It's not too far away from being 2 minutes around here, so you don't want to leave this too late. You want to get out there and get it done. Some guys will obviously try and time their run to get to the checkered flag just before the checkered flag drops, so they can get that last final lap in, make full use of the track conditions when they're at their peak, or should be at their peak. The track actually, even when it's on full or when it rubbers in, still quite a slippery track. But anyway, the iRacer, who's in the guest Freightliner Racing livery for the moment, got his own livery coming in a couple of weeks, JP Simshed. He's on his way to turn 1. Hans, let's talk us through this lap as we look from the bonnet cam.
Right, so second gear through the first corner, up to third. Trying not to get too much wheel spin over this curve. Oh, he's dropped the wheel off onto the dirt there. So up through the gears, up to 5th gear, then a big long braking area into turn 3. Down back through the gears, another second gear corner, and then through this little left-right chicane, through the little car park section at MSAC, and then we see South Melbourne Park at the right there. And we're just going. See, that corner's deceptive as a symbol. You can actually end up into the wall there quite easily. Then another sort of curve straight, and then back to the right. Then we're going through up to turn 8, and trying to take care of that left rear tyre is very important here. Most of the corners are around the right, being a clockwise circuit. Then turn 9. Good passing opportunity if you can get it done there, if you've got a lot of speed and you find yourself buried in the pack, but you have to be committed. Then through this big curve straight now, we saw John Bowers' big accident at the Grand Prix many, many years ago in the Ascari A10, cleaned up by Porsche. Now here's a really important section to get right, turn 11, 12, and no runoff area as we compare it to the Grand Prix circuit this year. No runoff area, no margin for error, you're going to end up into the sand. And as we go underneath the Connor sign, that's your braking marker. Then you're at the 100 metre mark. It looks like he's got a good balance on things at the moment, JP Courier, the iRacer. Got a lot of iRacers coming into the series. And then turn 14, I think that is. Yeah, turn 14. Then turn 15. He's out towards the right of the circuit, back inside. Oh, probably couldn't hit the apex as well as he could have, but still, he's getting a real good run now. probably a bit too far from the curb there, out too much over the curb, but that's all right because he's seems to have actually gotten quite a good run on the main straight, and off we go again. And he's done a 1:55, so not a bad lap time. We're going to see, he's actually set the fastest lap at the moment, so we'll see who else comes up with anything better if possible.
Well, looking for a few drivers to see what they're up to, and a couple are backing out, a couple just starting. Is Benjamin Rhodes, or Rhodey. He's starting his first flying lap. He was in commentary with me last week, gave up his ride to come into the commentary box and give me some company, but we're still waiting to see if there's anybody really out there on the circuit that's going to put down a time that can challenge Courier. And Billy Dougal-Salonga, he goes 1.4 seconds slower, so he's the second man across the line. See if we can pick up the fourth place man, which I think is Jamie Snow. I think he might be the next man to set a time if we can find him on screen. And in actual fact he was, and there he is, so he's down to the 54s. So we're now down into the 1 minute 54s.
Straight to the top, fantastic lap time, and we'll see if we can actually get a few more blokes to, really squeeze lemon on this one. He's absolutely 10/10s. He's out over the line almost, and he's locked it up. So bit of understeer there. So this is going to be his second flying lap. Let's see if he can improve on it in the Nissan Motorsport Altima. And he's got a bloody good line through there. Alan Moffat used to say you go from white line to white line and not anything over, and he's got that really good at the moment, and he's 3/10 up on his best time, which is the pole time. So 36.69, 37.69 actually.
Yep.
Yeah, 37.69. Fantastic so far.
Certainly is. A couple of other times coming in there as well, so we've got 6 times
he's
down.
Really backed it in there. Sorry to cut you off, Stephen. He looked like he was going to go around.
He's very loose.
And he's very taily out of there.
He's very, very loose. We've seen a few drivers with some loose race cars. Brendan Ross during practice session also with a very, very loose race car, and had what appeared to be a loose race car, even though he denied it. A little bit off his own Sector 2 split there, Jamie Snow, but still up on his own PB, so be set to improve the marker. But it hasn't taken long for Mitchell Hathway to throw down the gauntlet. He's well advanced into the 54s, closing in on the 53s. Actually, a 54.166 is now the benchmark time to beat. We have seen quicker times for the moment. So where's Brenton Foley in all of this? Because he was the man leading the top of practice. He is out on the circuit. And if we look into the timing screens, look like he might be setting his, either on an out lap or he's setting his first lap at the moment. We'll see what Jamie Snow can do with if he can improve the time or not. But I notice a couple of drivers having just to reset the throttle a little bit, not getting the right amount of turn in and having to back it off and then pick it up again. In actual fact, Jamie Snow must have been given a track violation that particular lap because it did not register a time. Let's see if we can go down and find Brenton Foley. Here he is. So he's on an out lap at the moment. Points are crucial for this man. He is the defending champion. He's got, as you said, he's got big fat 0 next to his name, and he'd dearly love to get a fistful of points, and he was certainly looking the goods when it came to the practice session, but we all know practice doesn't count for nothing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there, Nether. But he's got quite a good balance on things at the moment. He seemed quite good in the practice session, so we're eagerly watching his performance in this qualifying session, and let's see if he can really get his race night off on the right note. He's just locking it up a little bit there. Hopefully it's not too flat spotted.
No, there's a couple of people struggling in those turn 13, 14 sections. Now he's just backing off a little bit here, I guess, just to prepare himself to get going, get some heat into those tyres, and then he will be gone. We've got 9 runners out of the 18 that are taking part in this qualifying session with a time on the board. The time of Glenn Miles at the bottom there, not truly representative of what he's capable of. So his first session in AMS Oz Super 2. We'll leave Foley for the moment because he's on about to start his first flying lap across the line. See if we can pick up who might be the next drivers to come across the line. A couple of drivers already done, so Devonish strikes up into 4th position. So a number of these drivers already up to their maximum qualifying laps. Or actually all the top few drivers on their maximum qualifying laps already. So Glenn Miles will be the next man across the line to set another time. He's coming through the turn 14 corner now, I believe. Yeah, so he's actually a bit slower than what you would normally take that corner, but I guess it's steady as you goes. And when it's your first time...
Oh, he's backed it in. Oh, it looked like he was going to go around there, but he managed to keep it straight. He's not going around the wrong way in the Jack Daniels Altima. He's got the lights ablaze. He's going to finish off his run now. Not sure if that's the way he wanted to finish it, but Glenn Miles, he's going to come across the line. It's going to be above 2 minutes here. And 2 minutes 3.1, so probably not an effort that he's happy with.
Well, he was flashing his lights at us, so I dare take it that means he was actually happy to see us himself on the broadcast. So his good thing is he's improved his time, and by a long way too. But we return to the defending series champion, and he's
up 0.3 of a second.
That's a very, very healthy margin, and a good line too through that fast turn 11 and 12. Just kicked up a small amount of dust, but that's all right. No real punishment in that little piece of track. If you go bouncing across the grass like Timo Glock did in the Toyota back in those days, you end up with quite irreparable damage and a car that won't go very far. But that wasn't too bad from Foley. This section's critical though. The run out of turn 15, getting the...
He's track sacrificing turn 15, so you can see he went all the way up to the yellow line, and now he's coming up to try and get a good run on the main straight. He's already up, but we're going to see if he can beat... Oh, Brenton Ross, he's gone up to...
Got him.
Sorry, Brenton Foley's got him. But Brenton Ross, he's in second place, 0.3 behind Brenton Foley. So our defending champion is showing a clean pair of heels today.
And he's not done with it yet. He's still got another flying lap to go, so he presses on. His teammate Philip Boak is out there on the circuit as well. See if we can pick him up, because he hasn't set a time yet, but he's set a 38 for a first sector, so that's not too bad. That's going to track to put you somewhere in the midfield.
Boak was actually quite late coming into the practice session, so he must have been pretty confident with the balance of his car. But 015 Red Bull Commodore, he's really getting it on now. So he's heading into, I think this is his second flying lap, isn't it?
Yeah, it is his second flying lap, and he's down. So he's down on the pole time by a half a second. So that would put him, he's actually a bit of improvements. That would put him provisionally row 2 with Mitchell Hathway. It'll put him on the outside for turn 1 if he can maintain this pace. Just hearing a little bit of a throttle reset there at turn number 13. A few drivers having to do that just to get it turned in.
Oh, we had to pick up the brake again in the middle of the corner, so not steering on the ideal line.
No, uses all the available road at turn 15. And now into the final corner. It just doesn't use as much curb as what Foley did on the exit of 16, so doesn't sacrifice a little bit of speed, and this will be his final fly lap, and it's a 154.6, so he's on the inside for row 2, so that's the pit straight side. Now, who else have we got out there at the moment? We've got Matt Williams is still out there looking to set his first time, I believe. Yes, he hasn't set a time yet. Oh, nice little drift there into turn 16, and he's going to set a time. It's going to be about a high 55, actually to mid 55, so it's P7, and he'll share that row with Will Devonish, and he's done as well. So it looks like everybody is done, and in actual fact, there's 3 drivers that have reported as, or 2 drivers that have reported as finished that didn't set a time, and then one that didn't go out at all. So Lee Sanford in the Click Studios Commodore did not go out. He went out but did not set a time. Brownie in the Brown Dog Racing Commodore did not set a time, and Aussie in the Nick Percat guest car did not set a time either. So those 3 gentlemen are going to be starting 16th, 17th, and 18th respectively. But defending champion has the pole for race number 1, and he'll start from P1 with Brendan Ross in P2 alongside. And Brendan Ross has actually been having a really, really good run through a number of the series at the moment, Arns. He's somebody that we think is probably going to get a promotion very, very shortly up into from amateur ranking into pro ranking. He's doing that well.
He's given it a red hot go, and that's what we like to see. We like to see amateur drivers become professional. But Brendan Ross, he's given it a real red hot go, and he's challenging it with some of the pro guys. So Mitchell Hathway in third, then Philip Boak on the second row, and the second of the PBF Race Engineering Commodores. Then Jamie Snow in the Michael Crusoe guest car. JP Courier, it's the guest car, third row in fact. So we got the Nissan Motorsport and the Freightliner Commodore there, JP Courier. So we got Matt Williams, Ricky Slick, whatever you like to call him. So he's on the fourth row. Then Will Devonish, perhaps struggling a little bit. He's had a really good performance in the middle stint of the Adelaide race, which was fantastic to see. The distinctive HSV dealer team number 15. And I noted when I was watching the stream the other night was he actually has the Larry bar going, so he's got the alternative cockpit settings on the VF Commodore. Then Termo in the Castrol Altima. We don't quite see his livery properly.
We're going to have that fixed for the next couple of rounds, I think. So it just takes a little bit of... it might be just a little DDS issue that needs to be fixed there, but you are going to get it fixed.
Hopefully we see Turmo having a better run than he did at Adelaide. It was a bit of a struggle there. Then Steve Burko in the BP Falcon with the BMW grille. Then Dwayne Davies, Cam Rutledge, Billy Dougal-Salonga in the, I think, it's not a guest car actually, it's in the second of the Boost mobile cars. Then Glenn Miles in the Playboy Racing. The team is Playboy Racing, however, he's in a guest car as well in Jack Daniels Racing. Rhodey, PBF Pro-Am, car number 010. And got Lee Sanford in the D2 Racing. Is that a Falcon, is it?
No, it's a Commodore. Lee Sanford's running his own Click Studios livery on the Commodore.
There you go, the Eclipse Studios livery. Then we got Brownie and Aussie bringing up the rear in the Nick Percat guest car.
Well, that'll be what your grid lines up for in approximately 8.5 minutes' time. So the drivers at the moment, as we had a little bit of an issue there for some particular reason, we'll go back to our holding screen just for a little bit of time while we wait for the drivers to have their briefing, come out of their briefing, and then we'll hear a little bit of track action, and then we can return. So actually just getting a message through from one of the other drivers who was not able to make it tonight, Matt Cecil. So he's actually up in Queensland, and we know that there's some tropical storms and some cyclones up that particular way at the moment, dumping quite a substantial amount of weather on the northern states. So thinking of you guys up there, just make sure that you stay safe and look after yourselves, as that's the most important thing. The sim racing world can wait, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys again when you manage to get back on the track. So shame that he couldn't be with us tonight, but same with a few other people as well as time goes on. So, but Hans, we spoke about this circuit. It's been around since '97, when the first races were held. So they've also been speaking about resurfacing this circuit as of late as well. So what are your thoughts? Do you think it's going to deliver any sort of actual response in the future? Do you think we're going to see some quicker lap times when it does get its resurface done, if they happen to do that?
We'll probably definitely see quicker lap times depending on what aggregate and sealant they use on it. But I think being a very hard-to-pass circuit with all the curve straights and no proper long braking zones that you would generally see that are very conducive to passing opportunities, and being a public road for 51 weeks of the year, I think it's not going to actually make that much of a difference in terms of the racing, but in terms of lap times, yes, definitely it's going to get quicker. But obviously the degradation gets a lot more, so you're going to have a lot of cracks and a lot of white lines that have to be painted over for the race meeting. And then you also have things like maintenance of curbs, and they're probably going to take out that little divot on the main straight that took out Dan Ricciardo over the weekend. So it's been there for 20-something years and never caused an issue until a car went over it. I think being a public road 51 weeks of the year, I think that's the main factor that causes a lot of the wear and tear on the circuit. And there's a lot of crowning in the road as well, which does have an effect on the grip levels. Ever so minute, it's only a couple of degrees either way. And then you've got the wheel ruts and the white line. So it's actually quite a challenging circuit. The F1 guys say it's bumpy. The V8 supercars guys, they say it's quite smooth. So I think it will retain its character, but the lap times will obviously get quicker, and it depends on what tyre compound Pirelli brings, or Dunlop or whoever tyre manufacturer.
And you are right. It's a circuit that a lot of the V8 drivers tend to like. That's why they like coming to Melbourne, and obviously they're good to put on a show for the Formula One guys as well. And yes, I do stand corrected. Lewis Weddings watching the stream has pointed out it is 96 was the first race, not 97. I guess 97 was the first one I remember, because that was the year that Mika Hakkinen won the first of his 2 titles. That was the infamous race, if memory serves me correctly, where Coulthard moved over for Hakkinen on the last lap, I believe it was, and gave Hakkinen the win, because there was an agreement between those gentlemen. Whoever led into the first corner was, at the end of it all, was going to win that race. And the McLarens were so quick that year that they were the first ones to... they really took it up to the Ferraris in that particular year. So that's hence probably why I referred it to 97, because that was the one that I looked at most. In actual fact, Actually, no, it wasn't 97. It was 98. I'm now getting my minds crossed. I think I'm just going to stop talking about history because you're much better at the history than I am.
Actually, I'll ask you a question. What was so fancy about the McLaren cars in 1998, and why did they have such an advantage? Do you know?
Fire away.
Anyone on the stream, they can happily, Lewis, you're watching. Come on, give us the answer. What do you reckon it is? I want to see what Lewis says before we actually go into what the answer is. They had a second brake pedal. That's correct. 10 points to Lewis Wedding. Fantastic effort, mate. But yeah, second brake pedal that would control only the rear brakes. Because I think it was at the German Grand Prix, both of the McLaren Mercedes, went out on consecutive laps. And what basically turned from a 1-2 finish potentially, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. And it was a great embarrassment for the Mercedes factory as well, with all their dignitaries there. And also, they had a photographer. There was a race photographer down there, and he went down to the car. It stopped right in front of him. It was perfect position, perfect timing. He went and poked his camera in to the footwell of that McLaren Mercedes, and he saw that second brake pedal off to the left, and that's when it came undone, and it promptly got banned for that year after that. So, I stand corrected. The photo was taken at the next race at Interlagos. There you go. I thought it was at the German Grand Prix. That I'm not too sure about that one, but I know there is a photo floating around out there, and you can clearly see there are two brake pedals, and one exclusively controls the rear brakes. And fans were noticing that the rear brakes glowing when the car was under acceleration. So quite a fascinating way. Then it just shows in motor racing that it's basically all about being a little bit cheeky, bending the rules a little bit, and trying to push them as far as they can go without breaking them.
And this is why he's in the commentary box with me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. As we said, he's the walking encyclopedia, and that's why I'm an action caller. And you've got such good knowledge, Hans, because you just put me to shame, because my mind is all over the place right now. And just out of talking about people making some comments in the chat, and Damon, yes, there will be an opportunity to join in between sessions. So when the warm-up session for race 2 is on, there will be an opportunity to jump in, but you will have to start rear off grid, so that is all good for you. As we watch the timer counting down, we've got about 2 minutes roughly left until the warm-up session is over. Drivers are out of the briefing, and a couple just doing some laps at the moment. So let's see if we can go over and just see who's out there at the moment while we wait.
Before we head over to following one of the cars, we'll just make mention of Walshy and I think it's Mike Coulson. They're going to be joining the series next round with Scuderia Alitalia. So very nice Italian name and an Italian airline, the flag carrier of Italy. So it's going to be fantastic to see how they go. The cars, I've had a look at the cars. They look pretty fantastically presented. So good to see the grid is just getting bigger and stronger as the year goes on.
Yes, and great pronunciation there as well, because they've gone with a team name that they thought was deliberately difficult for the commentators to pronounce. But as you're right, it's Scuderia Alitalia. So we've already got our tongues around that, Walshy and Glenn. So try again. And yes, a big Lewis Wedding did do deliveries, I believe, for those particular cars. But you're going to have to do a little bit better to outfox it. It's like Matt Williams deliberately writing a team name that he thought was going to get the commentators, and when we just found a way around it just to abbreviate it to FCR Motorsports, and now he's gone with it and said, well, we know what FCR stands for, so it's now a mainstay when we look at our live timing, and on screen it just says FCR Motorsport, because he's like, oh, well, I tried.
He tried his best, but I find it fascinating that it's FCR Motorsport, yet R stands for racing. So racing motorsport. I guess there are forms of motorsport that aren't racing, so still checks out.
Certainly. Well, less than 20 seconds to go in the warm-up session. We're just perched here at the Turn 1 gravel trap, which hopefully won't have to be used tonight. And other thing that won't have to be used tonight, unless you have any damage, is the pit lane. So no pit stops involved in the sprint racing. Your fuel should last you a tank quite comfortably, and they're talking of fuel burn around the sort of 8 litres a lap.
We've got someone almost going round in the background. That's coming off the final corner, but this is a fantastic shot. You really see, I think that is Jamie Snow, in one of the guest cars. So I think you really see sort of the very tiny undulations in the road, and also you can see if the car's a bit squirming and tramlining under brakes, which tends to be quite a characteristic of these supercars.
Yeah, and you can see as well there that just from the angle we're looking at, the road itself, or the circuit itself, is quite flat. There's just that little crown in the road, just as it rises up and comes down, maybe by about a metre. So the elevation change, as we said earlier, there's hardly any elevation change in this particular circuit. But the siren you heard means drivers, get out there on the grid, because we are about to go racing. We're going to have a formation lap and a standing start, and then it's 12 laps of pedal to the metal, and who comes out on top, we will find out probably in about 20 minutes or so from now.
Lewis Wedding on the live stream broadcast, he's commented, this version of the circuit seems much more grip than last season. So I think, not sure how the last season's race have gone, because that's predating my time as a commentator for Automobilista Australia. But I think perhaps, Stephen, do you think it's going to make a difference, or is it going to, is it going to be like real life? It's going to be hard to pass, and it's going to be, probably a lap time to stay about the same.
I still think it's going to be a bit hard to pass, because we've even had some comments from people like Brenton Foley, who's starting on the pole, that he feels it's a little bit slicker. But then, again, it could be just down to the kind of setups that some of these drivers are running as to how the cars react. I still think there's going to be a little bit of a challenge passing, and it wouldn't surprise me if there's a few, drivers with bent doors and bent steering as a result of a few people that might try and send one up the inside and don't quite fully pull it off. But while they're on the formation lap, let's just quickly recap the grid. So, defending champion in car 1, Brenton Foley on the pole, and he's got a very fast 444 VF Commodore alongside him in Brendan Ross, who's really staking a claim for himself in the last couple of months in AMS Oz and doing a fine job of it. Mitchell Hathway, he's starting out of P3, last round's winner last week in Adelaide, and the current championship points leader is third. Phil Boak, the second of the PBF Race Engineering Red Bull cars, is out of P4. Jamie Snow in the guest car for his first run in Super 2 out of P5, the highest placed of all the Nissans. And JP Courier, good return for him. He's up in 6th place, had a bit of an unhappy time in Adelaide, actually caused the first safety car immediately off the grid by the sound of things, or from what we appear to have seen, and didn't finish that particular race. Ricky Slick, aka Matt Williams, team owner, race driver, whatever you want to call him, he's on the 4th row of the grid. He shares that with Will Devonish in that HSV liveried Commodore. And then rounding out your top 10, you got Termo for Castrol Racing in the what should be a Castrol Racing, very close to a Nissan Motorsport Castrol Racing car. We'll get that rectified between this round and the next. And then rounding out your top 10 is Steve Burko. He's the first of the Fords. There's that BMW grille on it, which he so desperately wants to change. Dwayne Davies out of P11. Cam Rutledge, the leading driver in the Pro-Am standings, 4th overall for CRE Motorsport, the electrician, out of 12. Teammate to Mitchell Hathway, Billy Dougal-Salonga, he's out of 13. Glenn Miles is P14. And then Rhodey is P15 for his first run in the PBF Pro-Am car. And then we get on to the drivers that did not set any times in the qualifying session, with Lee Sanford, Click Studios Racing in the VF Commodore, and then a pair of ZB Commodores behind in Aussie, who actually ran a different livery last time out, so we're classing him as a privateer. And then Brownie, so Brownie part of the Cracker Racing team, and Cracker from the Cracker Racing team not present tonight, so only the one car there. So let's see these drivers line up, and let's see who's going to have the best drag to the first corner. We saw that the inside line with Valtteri Bottas on the weekend got a brilliant launch from P2. Can Brendan Ross get the job done on Foley?
I think it's fascinating the run into turn 1, because all the cars seem to fan out, and then all of a sudden they need to go through this funnel to actually get through turn 1. So could be a bit of carnage, but the red light's coming on, and Stephen, it's time for you to take us away.
Lights off. We are away, and it was a fairly even start at the front, but Brendan Ross got a better secondary phase of start, and he pulls ahead, and Boak tries to go with him, and it's Commodore's all the way across the circuit, but it's Brendan Ross who has the inside line for turn 1. He gives some space to Foley, and they're going to run side by side down to turn 3, giving each other space, which is really good to see. Looks relatively clean back there as well, and Boak's moved up a place to P4 as well, so he's managed to get the jump on Mitchell Hathway, but it's Brendan Ross outbrakes Brenton Foley into turn 3, hangs the tail out a little bit, and he has got the lead. Great job, Brendan Ross.
Good to see Foley just slot back into second there. He could have been at risk losing a couple of positions if he got it wrong, but he's sticking with the 444 at the moment. He's doing a real good job.
Commodores 1, 2, 3 and 4. Jamie Snow occupies P5. Matt Williams has moved up to 6th place. He always seems to make up a few spots in these races, the perennial position getter. And there is a bit of a gap that's formed between, I think it looks like the top 7 or 9 cars, and back to, looks like Cam Rutledge out of 10. So the top 9 have really started to, break away. They have strung out a fair bit, but there is quite a noticeable gap between Steve Burko and Cam Rutledge as they round the backside of Albert Park Late for the first time, coming down to the high speed 11 and 12. And Foley's right with him. Look at this.
Ross, he absolutely had a bit of understeer going on there, and Foley's got a bit of understeer too. So front couple of cars, they're struggling with a bit of understeer. They're perhaps pushing the tyre beyond the grip limit. Foley had a look down the inside. He got out of it, but Ross, he doesn't look too happy at the moment. It's turning him from entry understeer into exit oversteer. So not sure what's going on with the car at the moment, but he's struggling a little bit in this early stage. But he's managing to stay in front of Foley.
Well, this is what we saw from his car in terms that performed in Adelaide. It was a little bit of a touch there as well. I think Foley might have just gotten into the back of Brendan Ross a little bit because it unsettled the rear and kicked up a little bit of smoke. But lap 1's about to go down. As we just before, Brendan Ross was, this is the kind of behaviour we'd seen out of his car in Adelaide, but he absolutely denied it and said, no, my car's not loose, and it's come to me, but it certainly looks a bit of a handful on screen, but maybe that's just the way that he drives it. A little bit aggressive. Time starting to come in. Matt Williams now moves up to P5, so another spot gained for Matt Williams, out of P7 out to P5, looking the goods. And Foley starting to gap Brendan Ross starting to gap Brenton Foley now, who's starting to become a bit of a cork in a champagne bottle here for his teammate, and it probably won't be long, I guess, until one of these guys decides to pull the trigger if they can get close enough. We know Mitchell Hathway certainly very quick. Don't count Jamie Snow out as well, because he's definitely ready to have a red hot crack. And they round turn 6 and now start to head down through turn 7 and 8 and on their way to a passing opportunity. Now Foley's realised he's become a bit of that cork in the champagne bottle, just starting to try and clear off, and now that puts Phil Boak under some pressure. Now I am noticing as well that for some reason Brenton Foley's gone down the timing screens. He's definitely P2 on the road. Hopefully that will correct itself very, very shortly when they get to this timing intermediate, or to the, didn't correct it there, but hopefully it'll correct it when it comes down to the control line, because we have seen this before. There's a bit of an exchange going on, just noticing between Will Devonish and JP Courier, and Steve Burko's buying into this as well, and Devonish has now managed to wrestle P6 away from JP Courier, I believe, through the turn 11 and 12 complex as we look to the replay, and actually got the job done out of turn 10, and Courier had a look up the inside here, and they went side by side, and this is great racing. Look at him giving the space. This is fantastic. In actual fact, Devonish did come out on top at the end of all that, but it was a very clean exchange.
Yeah, Devonish lucky to get out of that one with his position, because it looked like it really sacrificed his run through that curve straight. And then Courier was just ready to pounce on it, but they went side by side, and he had the preferred line for turn 12, so he's out of that. And yeah, we're still having trouble with Brenton Foley. He's not coming over the control line, so he's definitely second on the road. We can see him right now, but it's not showing him coming over the control line.
Well, I'm worried about that, because I've had this happen to me before in this particular game. Steve Burko has a bit of a look now on JP Courier. In actual fact, there's a bit of contact there down into turn 3, but they get away with it, and I think that you try and go around the outside here, Steve Burko, and actually gets the job done. So that was a bit of a cheeky move. He come from a long way back, and a little bit of a nudge, and manages to get P7 away from Courier for the moment.
Really lucky not to go over that sausage curve on the end of turn 4. So he actually could have spun him around, and it could have been day over and out for both of them. But yeah, Courier could have been that cork in the bottle at the moment. So we've got a bit of trouble with Foley.
Yeah, so Foley's out. So that's a bit of a worry. I was wondering whether or not I had something happen to me during the AMS season with the ARW guys a little while ago, and it's if you miss a marshal's post or you miss a particular part of the track where the timing intermediate kicks in, then it puts you a lap down because it doesn't register that particular sector for you. So I'm not sure if that's what's happened to Brenton Foley, but no points again for this particular, or for the first race at least tonight, and he could have had maximum of 450 on the board had he been out there in front, and had he have been there for Adelaide and won that race too, but he's still got no points, so he'll be seething that he hasn't managed to maximise any of that. Meanwhile, we've actually seen a pass for second place. Mitchell Hathway's got the job done on Phil Boak. We missed that. We'll see if we can pick that up. And where did that job actually get done? Got done into turn 13. In actual fact, he was right well alongside Boak. Boak turned in on him and then realised he was there, and then Hathway has the high ground for 14, and that's a comfortable pass. And we did speak about commitment to passing, and actually defended quite well there as well, Mitchell Hathway, to solidify his place. Commitment to passing, he absolutely committed to that move a long way before it was required to be done. In actual fact, Boak's gotten back past now as well, so these guys exchanging positions twice in the last half a lap, and Hathway's not giving up on this, and neither's Jamie Snow. He's sticking to the rear bumper of this two like glue.
Yeah, we've got these little gaggle of 3 cars at the moment. Good sense of mind from all of them to not be crashing into each other too much. But, I mean, when you have 3 cars running around this close, a big, fast circuit with a lot of curved straights, I think it is a little bit of an accident waiting to happen. But obviously, pretty good exchange at the moment, making for some pretty good racing, 1, 5, 99 and 23.
That's it. Jamie Snow shows the nose down there at turn number 9 as they continue on for the second part of lap 4. Can Mitchell Hathway get a good run through turn 11 and 12 and then put the pressure back onto Boak down through 13? Let's see how close he is. Actually not that close at the moment. Can he get a better run through here than Boak can? Takes a little bit less curb. Jamie Snow might be the one that has the run on Mitchell Hathway at the moment, because he's a lot closer to Hathway than Hathway is to Boak. And no, just shows the nose a little bit. And just missed the curb there a little bit too. Mitchell Hathway got to get a little bit loose on the exit curb there, and that's Snow's opportunity. He has a look to the inside there, but he's not quite close enough to make the move, but he's showing the nose and showing that he's there. Thinks about up the inside of turn 15 and thinks, nope, not an opportunity there. Maybe I'll have another look coming down into turn number 1 if he can set himself up here for a good run out of the final turn. And that's not a bad effort. He's still a car length or 2 behind. He'll need to try and reel in the Commodore as quickly as he can. The draft is powerful, but it's not that powerful. Hathway goes defensive, moves over and forces Snow to think twice, and that's fine. That's all well and good. There's no issues with that sort of defence. He didn't move more than once, held his line, and battle rages on for another lap. But Snow is not giving up easily. In actual fact, Phil Boak has kicked away here from this battle for third place, and Brendan Ross has definitely kicked away out in front. He's got quite a handy margin at the moment. He's got nearly 3 seconds.
I think Hathway is always struggling a little bit. His car's sort of squirming, understeering all over the place. So not sure what's wrong with the balance of that car, if he's just unhappy with it, or it's sort of the tyres have sort of dropped off a little bit. However, last lap and a half, it's not been looking too good, and he's been quite vulnerable and pretty early to be going defensive. So he knows he's in trouble.
Yeah, he certainly does know he's in trouble, and just managed to get a couple of car lengths here on the Nissan driver of Jamie Snow for the moment. Just a little bit of respite, but there really isn't much respite here, especially when you're turning, as you said, for well over 50% of the lap, these curved straights that really aren't straights, and got no time to think here. You just see visibly Mitchell pushing the limits as much as he possibly can. Very, very aggressive on the exit of turn 12, whereas Snow is quite measured in his approach there. And look back through the field and see what else is going on here. We've got a couple of other I-races going at it for P7 and 8. Got JP Courier defending from teammate to Mitchell Hathway in Billy Dougal Salonga.
He's locked it up.
He has. He thought about going down the inside there, but did a good job to get out of it very, very late in the piece. Avoided contact, but the passing move was on there. He just wasn't quite close enough to pull it off, but there might be another exchange of positions between these two drivers in the next couple of laps. And we've got Benjamin Rhodes, or Rhodey's actually retired from this race as well. Not sure what his particular drama is there, but we've now lost 2 drivers out of this as we are on the half distance lap right now. through they go again.
So, Brody, I think he had a bit of trouble down at turn 9. So I saw on the timing monitor, he was running in 15th place at the time. It just ended up just stopping there. So, not sure if he's
Here
had
we
some
go.
sort of issue. Oh,
A move has been made, and I think it was Courier just went a little bit too deep on the defensive part of the circuit into turn number 3, and surrenders the place. Let's see if we can have a look at it from the perspective of the driver behind on the bumper cam. Oh, Backton actually gave a little tap there as well, so wasn't going deep. There was definitely a little love tap there from BDS on the rear of JP, and manages to get through into P8, and he's actually now surrendered that place. So sensible driving. He realised that he made an error, and he's surrendered P7 back, and now he'll do it all over again. That's sensible driving, redressment of the position, and life goes on. Meanwhile, out in front, I think looks like Hathway slowly starting to close in again on the back of Boak, and Snow still going with Mitchell Hathway. Hasn't been able to find a way past just yet. Down to turn 15.
I think the cars are quite evenly matched in pace now. They're sort of, in the recent past, it's stayed pretty static, the sort of gaps between them. No one's really running away from the group or skipping away. So, I mean, perhaps it's going to stay like this for the rest of the race. We're over halfway now, and they've sort of settled into their rhythm now. Let's see if Jamie Snow can try and make a move. He doesn't show them nose this time, so let's see if he can. Oh, Hathaway, big slide coming out of turn 2. So, a big slide again, turn 3. So, yeah, he's struggling a lot.
And Snow thinks that that's the opportunity, and he goes to the outside here, which is typically not the way you want to do it. You don't want to go around the outside, but he manages to get it done and pulls it off and holds the line. That'll give him the high ground for turn number 4, and that's a brilliant move by Jamie Snow. So sensing that Mitchell was going to defend, he thought, well, I'll go around the outside here. What have I got to lose? I might be able to set myself up. And in actual fact, he pulled out and pulled it off, and Mitchell Hathway actually backed out of it. And I'm noticing Matt Williams has very slowly been chipping away over the last couple of laps on this pair. So he's been a tenth or two quicker over the last few laps, and slowly getting closer and closer to getting into the battle. He's already made 2 positions like Jamie Snow has since the drop of the green flag. And what can Snow do? Can he manage to get a run and get onto the back of Phil Boak and challenge for second place on the podium? Or is Mitchell Hathway going to have another opportunity to get back that place? And what can Matt Williams do? This is certainly a very interesting battle at the moment, and Will Devonish is not that far out of this either. His times have not been as quick as this leading 3, but he's managing to hang on, and he'll be there to pick up the pieces if there's any waterworks at the end of this exchange.
They keep going and trying to pass each other and all that sort of stuff. It really compromises the exit and all that sort of stuff, and they're all going off the road here. So Devonish, he might actually come up to the end of this group by the end of this race.
He certainly might. He did have a good run in Adelaide, Will Devonish. He was out front for a few laps, and actually was out there for quite some time until he had his dramas. And Mitchell Hathway was the man that put on a brilliant show in Adelaide, starting from dead last, finishing first. Something we'd never seen up until that point in Automobilista Australia. It doesn't happen all that often, but it is possible to happen. I think as Rhodey alluded to, bit of a moment for Snow. He grabbed way too much curb at turn 1 and somehow managed to hang on to it. And the guys behind didn't fare too much better either, because they didn't have very good exits out of turn 2, so he gets a reprieve from making that mistake, and he'll hang on to P3 for a while. And he's got 2 or 3 car lengths on Mitchell Hathway at the moment, and now I think it's going to be a matter of time before Matt Williams decides he wants to have a go at the back of that 99 ZB Commodore somewhere in the next couple of laps.
Oh, they're all running off the road just in the short run here. So I reckon we can. I'm going to call it now. Devonish is, if he keeps going the way he's going and driving real clean laps, white line to white line, I reckon he's going to get to them by the end of this race, because they're absolutely climbing all over each other and making mistakes. So Devonish, he's got a bit of clear air at the moment, so we'll see if he can actually make this a four-car battle pack.
Yeah, well, he needs to pick up his lap time a little bit here, because his lap times are sort of not. They're not too much. They're not too far off what the guys out of 3, 4 and 5 are doing, but they're certainly not as quick as he needs to be to latch onto the back of the pack. He's going to be reliant heavily on a really big mistake from one of these guys to make any further advancement of his position. But Jamie's now managed to kick away from Mitchell, and Matt's now trying to go with Mitchell to see if he can put a move on. He's only got 4 laps and change to do it. And look a bit back further through the field. Oh, Devonish is off the road. Devonish is off the road.
Pay to his chances of getting up to that, advancing his position. He's definitely going to stay in 6th, I reckon, because bad understeer through that corner as well. So we'll have a look. We're having a replay now, and the HSV dealer team number 15.
Yep. So here.
Let's see if he locks it up or makes just a mistake. And bad understeer. He's turning the wheel. No one's home, and he's off the end of the road. So absolutely pays to his chances of advancing his position, and again understeering. So bit of a struggle at the moment for him.
Yep, and a good visual representation of the Larry bar that you mentioned earlier on. And you can see it right there on the screen, the Larry bar on that Commodore. So very, very rare to see one of those nowadays, but good to see a little bit of nostalgia makes its way into AMS Oz. As we just quickly tour through the field to see what's happening, and JP Curio's managed to kick away from Billy Dougal so long. Has actually dropped all the way down to 12th, so he's made a mistake somewhere, so he's got a lonely race to the flag at the moment. And then Cam Rutledge occupying P8, and Dwayne Davies 9, Burko 10th, and Termo not far off the top 10 finish, but these guys have just managed to string themselves out a little bit over the course of the race so far. So probably no real time to change positions unless one of them makes a mistake. We return to the front of the field. Matt Williams has got the job done. Matt Williams has got the job done on Mitchell Hathway. We didn't see that, but we saw the tail end of that. He's very happy, and Hathway is going to go with Matt Williams. So we're going to stay with this. We're not going to take a look at the replay to see the move done, because somewhere along the line, Matt Williams got the job done, but it's not over and done with yet, and it's actually brought Will Devonish back into this battle. So we thought he was gone after his off-road excursion at turn 13, but these two must have made a mistake of their own or held each other up, because Will's right back in this fight for 4th and 5th and 6th overall. And look at this, there's bump drafting going on, and Will's off the road again at turn 13, so now he might be gone. But a little bit of Morse code on that rear bumper from Mitchell to Matt. And Matt Williams going defensive here into 15. Mitchell says, oh, maybe I can hang it around the outside. No, I can't. Maybe I'll try and get a better exit out of here and out-drag you down to turn 1. Uses a lot more exit. Matt's going very defensive, but he's way too early to do this. All the way across the pit wall. All the way across the pit wall.
Now you can move once, but you can't move back over. And that's pretty much on the limit of what you can do in the driving standards. So,
he can.
Bumping side to side. So you saw Hathaway give him a big swerve up on the rear bar a couple of times, and he's probably going to go again. He might not have a rear bar at the end of this.
He's going to pull the Jamie Snow trick here, Mitchell Hathway. He saw what he did and tries to hang it around the outside. Matt could just escort him wide there if he wanted to, but he gave him some racing room. Mitchell tucks back in, so a fair exchange between these two. I think they haven't punted each other off the road or done too much damage to each other, but a little bit of love tap, a little bit of Morse code. It's not illegal, but it certainly gets your heart pumping, and Matt will be in there thinking that, oh, geez, what have I got to do to hold my position here? Although he's quite wide and he's compromised now on the exit of 6. Mitchell's going to try and have him round the outside of 8 down into 9, because you don't want to be on the outside to pass here at 8. Oh, Devonish is in the wall almost in the background. And Matt Williams, will he hold on here? No, he doesn't. Mitchell Hathway round the outside of turn number 8 and 9, and now and 10. And now they run down to 11. Williams has got the inside here. Will they go side by side again? Devonish is buying into this. Who does he go with, or does he just bide his time? And it's Matt Williams who comes out ahead. And Devonish now thinks, well, I've got to run out of here too. I might try and sneak down the inside at 13. But the question's going to be, can he pull it up in these closing laps? He's been running deep there, looking at possibly going 3 wide. No. He goes to Matt Williams, gives him a little push. Doesn't run it deep this time, Devonish, but maybe that push was enough to keep Matt Williams ahead of Mitchell Hathway for the moment, but they'll side by side through turn 14. That gives Hathway the inside for 15, backs it in. What a great exchange this is, Hans.
Yeah, three of these cars, they're all struggling a little bit. They're all struggling in their various ways, and I think it's bloody entertaining seeing these cars. They're all about to fall off some sort of cliff, and they're bloody giving it a red hot go. They're trying to advance their positions. Hathaway's trying to keep his championship lead. He's trying to have a good run in this one, and they're just going back and forth at the moment. Definitely, we're going to see Matt Williams. He's just absolutely might run away with this No, perhaps not. Jamie Snow's out of the picture. So they might as well climb all over each other if they want those points. As we see a bit of hip and shoulder action.
Oh, and it's been turned, and Matt Williams, I think, has been given a little bit of a serve by Will Devonish there. So I'm grateful we stayed with the battle, because I think Will's going to have to surrender that place, because I got a funny feeling that there was a bit of Morse code there, and probably a little bit too much Morse code. Let's pick it up. Been watching a battle here, and also Snow and Boak are involved in a real arm wrestle for P2 at the moment. Yeah, I got a funny feeling that there was a bit of Morse code there. Let's see if we can pick it up from Will's point of view. No, he didn't. It wasn't close enough.
He's done it on its own. So either there was two options there. He got such a bad run that actually Devonish has come and given him a big hurry up. But he's actually made the mistake himself. So that car has definitely fallen off the cliff now. I don't think, I mean, it's going to take a miracle now.
Yeah, just from the angle we were looking at, I apologise to Will, but just from the angle we were looking at, it looked like he might have gotten into the back of Matt. But for the moment, Will's now pressing hard on Mitchell Hathway, and he's thinking about the inside, but thinks, no, I've got one more lap to do it. And Mitchell thought he was going to go down the inside too, and gave him space and locked up, and that's just a pure invitation with sugar on top and a big red cherry for Will Devonish, and he seizes P4 from Mitchell Hathway, but it won't be over and done with yet. We've still got a lap to go. Brendan Ross is checked out in front. Boak's managed to pull away from Snow now as well, so that battle for P2 looks like it's over and done with. And we're keeping an eye on this battle, and Devonish now might have just done enough to bridge or to break the spirit of Mitchell Hathway for this particular race, because it looks like that ZB's a real handful, and Will's car's come on strong at the right time. And you called it, Hans, if he kept it white line to white line, or in this case for this circuit, yellow line to yellow line, he was going to make a move. We thought he was gone a couple of times when he went off at turn 13, but he's managed to recover to P4.
Yeah, fascinating exchange between Devonish and Hathway. Could not fit a cigarette paper between them. It was that close into the turn 14, 15 and 16 complex. But Devonish, his car's coming on strong at the right time of the race. So final lap now. Let's see, he could actually have a bit of a buffer right now, about 2 or 3 car lengths over Hathway. So let's see how he goes.
The only issue for Will Devonish will be whether or not he can pull it up at turn 13, because Hathway's right there. And we'll just stay with him for the minute, because our race leader will be coming around to grab a checkered flag very, very shortly, and we'll cut to him as soon as this battle gets down to turn 13 to see if he can hang on to it. Oh, very close to the wall there, Hathway, behind the scenes too. He has not given up. Interesting to see the different lines. Hathway, bit more shallow, sort of a mid sort of track line through turn 12, between turns 11 and 12. No, I think if Devonish pulls this up, we are all good, and looks like he has. And Hathway's around, actually. So Matt Williams may very well come through and take that particular position, but we'll switch to our race leader. And he seized control from the first turn and out-dragged Foley to the P1, and he takes victory. Brennan Ross, job well done. Phil Boak manages to hang on to P2 from Jamie Snow. The battle for P4 goes to Will Devonish, and Matt Williams has come through and seized P5. In actual fact, JP Courier's come through and seized P6 as well. So that little half spin from Hathway has cost him dearly. Where is Hathway? He's actually coming around the final turn now, so he's going to end up P7. So what could have been a P5 finish, he surrendered a couple of further positions, so did not go according to plan those last few laps for Mitchell Hathway. Steve Burko manages to finish 8th, Dwayne Davies 9th, and Cam Rutledge rounds out the top 10. And a few other drivers yet to finish. Actually, Billy Dougal, so long as off the road there. I think that's a I'm not sure if that's a DNF or if he's yes, it is actually classed as a DNF. So there'll be no points for him there. Sando's still on circuit. So too Termo, and Brownie was the first of the cars a lap down. So a few drivers yet to finish. Those positions are not under any direct threat. But take nothing away from your race winner for race number 1. Brennan Ross, what a drive, and we spoke about him at the very beginning of the races, and that he's really turned a corner in the last couple of months, and his driving is getting better and better and better.
Yeah, that was a very impressive and dominant performance. He actually managed to out-drag them on the way to turn 1, which is fantastic to see. And it is that inside line. Maybe there's something on the inside line there. Generally, it's seen as to be the not so clean line because no cars run up there. But Brennan Ross, he just got it up and away, and the second phase of his start was really good. So he just led it from flag to flag. Fantastic effort. Well done.
Yeah, it was a very even start for the pair of them, but the better secondary phase at the start had to go to Brennan Ross. He just managed to hook it up, something incredible. And the exchange between Foley and Ross down into turn one was absolutely first class. Plenty of racing room between the two of them. They gave each other the space. And that's what we want to see. And the good thing too is we actually saw quite a lot of that throughout that race as well. I mean, a few little bits of bumping and rubbing, but no one punted anybody off the road, and that's a really, really good thing to see. Well, Hans, we're starting to get a few drivers through here for the top three positions. We're yet to get our race winner through, but I want you to have a chat to our man out of P3 first. So that was Jamie Snow.
So Jamie's joined us in the commentary box. Jamie Snow, how would you say your race went today?
Yeah, pretty good actually. It was just a matter of sort of biding my time with the two battling in front of me early on, and just kind of waited for a mistake, which ended up happening. And then going for, it was just a matter of trying to catch Boki from that point. Had a good little battle with him there, just like exchanging lap times, and he made a bit of a mistake, managed to get onto him, and just went in a little bit deep on the move. The move was definitely on, but I just slightly mistimed it. So, no, great fun race. Congrats to Rossi for the win, and a good battle with Boki for second.
We saw that it was getting quite willing in that sort of 3, 4, 5 sort of pack. What did you think of it all?
I mean, I'm not too sure what was happening behind me. I get the impression there was a little bit of argy-bargy going on once I passed. I think it was Mitchell. But no, I thought it was quite good while it was all in front of me. It was all nice and fair, nice and clean, and it's what we want to see, good fun racing.
Well done to Jamie Snow on taking third position in race 1 tonight. And hopefully we get to see your new car online soon.
Yeah, with any luck. I wasn't initially planning on running this series, but if I'm going to do reasonably well, I might have to organise myself an FCR motorsport car.
Oh, fantastic, mate. Well done. So we go over to Phil Boak now, second place getter. Now, Phil, pretty good race so far, but you need a little bit more to catch up to Rossi, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know. It was backwards and forwards. I just kept making just little mistakes. I'd bring the gap down, and I'd make a mistake, and he'd open up a bit, and then I don't know. It was close. He definitely had a slight edge, but no, it was a good race. I made a mistake with about 3 laps to go, and I smacked the wall through that far chicane. That's where Jamie got onto me. But that was bloody good fun.
Tyres falling off, or what was the reason for smacking the wall?
Probably trying a little bit too hard, maybe. I would say tyres were good. They actually looked after themselves really well. From about lap 5, the car just really picked up and got some speed, and it was very consistent. So it was good.
Yeah, well done. Bit of a shame to see your teammate come out with connection issues.
I know, second race in a row, he's pretty dirty. I feel bad for him because he definitely had the pace, and I think he would have cleaned that up. But yeah, a bit unfortunate. That's the way it goes.
Boki, what do you say? You reckon he's going to come back for the second race tonight?
Yeah, he's in the middle of trying to fix it now, so fingers crossed he makes it. I'm sure he will.
Yeah, hopefully we'll want to see him challenging up the front. And well done, Boki, for second place. And for our race 2 this season, and we're going to have a couple of races tonight, and so we're going to see who's going to lead the championship. Brennan Ross, congratulations, mate. Well done. What's your secret? Like Mark Webber used to ask Bottas, what did you have for breakfast?
You should have answered with the Wheat Bix. No, nothing really too different to what I've probably done last race. I know I had the pace in race 1 of the season, so it was pretty confident heading into this race. It's probably just luck on my side that, like you said, Brenton had the disconnection issues. Otherwise, that would have been a pretty close race, probably between the top 5 if he stayed around.
So we've seen a bit of a transition from your Pro-Am now up to the Pro level in Super 2. Now, how often do you practice a start, and how important is it at a start like a circuit like this?
It's definitely important to especially when you're staggered here, to get a good jump over the person next to you, especially when you can't. There's not too many passing opportunities, so it was pretty vital. But in regards to practice, it's don't too much focus on it. But I know in the warm up session, I definitely tried to get a good one, just based on what I was doing the last couple of days. So definitely got the 10 out of 10 for that one.
Now, I know I'm just speculating here, but given that Brendan Foley had connection issues, do you reckon you could have stayed in front of him if you had shades of that performance then?
I know come lap 3, I had a gap on him, but I think he was definitely coming back in, so it would have been close. So I don't think I would have had enough for him, but I think I would have been able to maybe hold on to the back of him if that was the case.
Well, thank you, Brendan Ross, our race winner in race 2 of this Super 2 Automobilista Australia Championship Series. And congratulations, mate. Well done. Very dominant performance.
Thank you.
Well, there's your top 3 for race 2 of the Super 2 season, and we've got race 3 coming up very, very shortly. Just waiting for a few drivers to get themselves sorted out in the pit paddock, and then we'll be good to go again. So we'll take a short break, and we will be back in a couple of minutes' time with race number 3. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the stream. You're watching the Super 2 for Automobilista Australia, races 2 and 3. We're about to dive into race number 3. So I believe there's a qualifying session that's happening at the moment, but from what we understood, it was looking like it was going to be a qualify or start race number 2 where you started race, or we finished race number 1. Now we're actually just having a few little dramas getting ourselves back into the session here, so that's just to do with the server ticking over. So if you bear with us for one moment, we will try and sort that out. But Hans, interesting. Let's just reflect on the first race of the night, which was race number 2, and some fantastic battles there that we've seen from the get-go. So P1 and 2 for the opening lap or so. Ladder down the line, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all within a shot, and plenty of respect given between all those drivers, and plenty of racing room. And it was great to see that there are drivers out there that are prepared to race hard, but also to race fairly.
Yeah, fantastic to see all the battles up and down through the field. Real shame not to see Brenton Foley up there at defending champion. It's been a real torrid run for him this season so far, unfortunately. So let's see in race 3 tonight. Let's hope he can get up there. Just had word from Mitchell Hathway that his game froze, so that was probably causing him all the trouble and all the grief for him. So very unfortunate to see all these technical dramas, and Rhodey with technical dramas as well. So yeah, hopefully they can get around for this final race tonight and give it a red hot go and see if they can get some points on the board.
Yeah, he certainly wouldn't be the first person that has had some freezing dramas coming into an AMS Oz race. I mean, plenty of the guys have had that over the course of time as well. I think I'm trying to remember from memory. There was I think it was Heath Dixon actually in the GT3 World Challenge on the weekend actually had some dramas as well. He's had them before at Monza. He's had them at other points in time as well. I think a few drivers have had some freezing dramas as of late, but I guess that's the nature of the kind of series that we run. The tracks that we are racing at are not necessarily tracks that are inbuilt into the game. They are additional tracks, so of course they're obviously prone to a few little errors here and there. So we do certainly try and do the best that we can with what's available. And now we are back with live pictures for the qualifying 2. Now we expected that we were going to have only a single qualifying session with race positions to be determined where you started for race 3 by where you finished in race number 2, but it certainly looks like drivers are out there setting some times at the moment for qualifying in race for tonight's second race, which is race 3 of the season. And the current man at the top, JP Curio, 156.8, so a bit slower than what he set in qualifying 1, but then again I do expect that the track looks fairly green at the moment, so the track condition may have been reset back to a default setting rather than carry over from the previous session.
I think it shows a very important lesson, that is always read the SUPREGs, the supplementary regulations, when you're entering a motorsport event. But I think we've got a problem with Mitchell Hathway. You actually can't get back into the lobby, so touch and go at the moment for Hathway, and let's hope that he can actually get back into the race.
Yeah, I think with getting back into the lobby during a qualifying session is prohibited for us as spectators, not an issue. But so the drivers that are on the circuit don't get disrupted by a potential game freeze happening during the qualifying session and upsetting somebody's lap. If you're getting back in as a competitor, it does lock the session to any future participants until qualifying is over, and then you can get in during the warm-up, but of course you'll be starting from the rear of the grid. Jamie Snow's first lap is a 55.3. He's still got one more to go. Let's look through the field and we'll see what other drivers we have at the moment. We've got and the man who's 9th place at the moment is Termo. He's coming around the final couple of corners to set his lap at the moment. There he is. He actually goes up to P2 with 56.5. Starting to get a few other drivers a bit further down the list. So Mitchell Hathway's teammate, Billy Dougal-Solonga, he's going to come to the line here. He's going to set what looks to be a mid-56. Actually, it's close to a mid-56, 56.3. And he goes to P3 right now.
So let's see. Actually, that's potentially Jamie Snow. He's going to come up there. So, yeah, he's improved on his lap time, I think.
He's actually on the circuit right now, so his time was 55.3. So let's have a look at what he can do. So he wasn't purple in Sector 1, but pretty close to what he did the previous time around. Let's see what his Sector 2 is like, which is down here just before the left-hander at turn number 11, and he's up fractionally on his own provisional pole time.
Incidentally, JP Curio, he's just gone into the pits. He's finished his 4-lap little qualifying session. So he's going to stay with that 155.69.
Yep, so he's improved back to a time similar to what we saw him produce in Q1 for the first race tonight, and which was a 55.1 if memory serves me correctly. And at the moment, a 55.6 on a relatively green track with not much rubber on. It's actually a relatively good time. Jamie Snow, this will be his last lap. He does a 54.3, so found a lot of time in that final sector. So catch me if you can, says Mr. Snowballs. And we've got plenty of other drivers yet to set some time. So Damon Mulqueen, he's in the server for his first race, for his second race of the series. And Aussie yet to set a lap time, so he's not on an out lap now, but he'll have to get on with it because there's only 2.5 minutes remaining in this session. A number of drivers yet to set some times.
If he's not careful, he'll only get one lap in this session with only 2:25 remaining.
Yeah, if he gets back to the line with enough time on the board, he'll get a second bite. And there's also this man here, Phil Boak, is going to only probably get one bite at the cherry here, so he's out on out lap right now. It's only a one lap shootout, and still no reigning champion Brendan Foley in the server. But as we said before, he'll probably be locked out at the moment, trying more focused on getting his internet dilemmas resolved so he can reliably get into the server and stay there because he really desperately needs some points. And we'll have a quick recap of the top 4 provisionally at the moment at the conclusion of this qualifying session. For the moment, flying the flag for PBF, it's his teammate Philip Boak, and he's going to have about a minute and a half to left on the clock by the time he starts this lap, so this will be his one and only lap.
We'll stay with him for the lap. You see flames belching out of the exhaust down through the gears, second gear into turn 1 and 2, and he comes out. He's getting a good exit. Bit of a slide there. He catches it. Bit of dirt coming up and up through the gears, up to 5th gear, almost banging off the rev limiter, then down through the gears again. Flames coming out of the exhaust. Bring back the flames in supercars, I say. And yeah, so running through turn 4 and 5 complex now. Be careful, don't go over that curb. Really unsettles the car. And he's got a good balance on things at the moment. So those tyre temperatures have come up nicely. Let's see what the first sector says. He's up 3/10 of a second. So
almost
well done.
4.
Or close to 4/10 of a second, actually. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, we'll see if he can continue that through. And he's coming down to turn 9 now. Let's see how the car is. Braking nice and straight, no tram lining. So good balance again there. So he's really being smooth with it. And he's running all the way up to the wall using every millimetre of road. He's squeezing the lemon 10 pence. We'll see what the second sector is. Oh, he's dropped a little bit in the second sector, so the second sector wasn't particularly great, but he's still about almost 0.2 of a second up, so not too bad. But let's see what he's got in the final sector.
Well, the final sector was where Jamie Snow really rammed the point home and found a chunk of time. It's going to be really hard for Boak to try and match that. Swings it through turn 14.
Ooh, that's a bit bad understeer there, so we'll see how much that's hurt him. It's definitely going to hurt him. We'll see how it goes.
Checkered flag is out. I thought he was going to drift it around that last corner for a moment.
It did look like it was going to rotate on an axis a little bit, but we'll see what this lap brings for him, and it's 0.2 down, so promising start for Phil Boak, and he's definitely got the speed, but couldn't quite glue that lap together.
Well, Brendan Ross is the only other man out on circuit that can challenge the top few at the moment. He's only fractionally up on his PB, but he currently sits P3 at the moment with a 55.4, so he's 0.8 of a second behind Boak exactly, and just over a second behind Jamie Snow. So he's going to have to pull out a mega final sector here if he's to have any hope of vaulting onto the front row. And can he carry over that form from race 1? Can he find that extra little bit of time? Just ran it across the face of the apex nicely at turn 15. Didn't take any curb. It uses all the curb on the exit of 16. And it's going to be a 54.5. So he does manage to vault Boak by 0.06 of a second. Great job, Brendan Ross. Another front row start, and I think most importantly for him, that coveted P2 spot that he converted from so brilliantly in race 1.
Brenton Foley showing a bit of frustration on the live stream. He says, let's all place bets on which lap I'll disconnect on this time round. So fingers crossed he doesn't, but he's just showing his frustration at having a torrid run this season.
Yeah, he certainly is. Last man across the line is Aussie, goes up to P13, so a different pole sitter this time around. Good to see a good run of drivers exchanging pole positions, also exchanging fastest laps and race victories as well. It's good to see there's a good mix-up in Super 2, which is good for us. It makes the racing exciting. But Jamie Snow, well done. You got a pole position to your name, and now I think he's really got to consider putting another car or another livery together if he wants to run Super 2. As you said, he wasn't looking at running the series as a long going concern, but if he's going to do so well, I mean, why not, right? You're up the front, you're challenging, and you got yourself a front row start.
If he's going that well, you're right. Why doesn't he keep going? So hopefully we get to see him in another car in the not too distant future.
Well, we've got another 10 minutes, so this is your opportunity. So for your likes of Mitchell Hathway and Brenton Foley, if you want to get back into the server, you're going to have to get back in the next 10 minutes so you can actually race. Just noticing a little bit of discussion happening in the live chat around why Mitchell Hathaway faded potentially so badly, not in the back half of that race, why it looked like he was struggling, and it looks like he may have started the race on worn rubber, so probably the tyres that he would have used in qualifying, I would imagine, so probably may not have had enough to fight with right toward the end of that race there, and not only leading to potentially making the mistake, but also some of those exchanges that were happening as well. He definitely looked like he was under pressure for a lot of those last couple of laps, and that could very well explain it, Hans.
Yeah, the tyre life was definitely dropping off towards the end. We've just seen little Devonish come into the into our little commentary channel at the moment, and Willett, how's the car feeling, and how would you say you went in the last race?
Yeah, I was happy with the tail end of the race. The two guys falling off, but yeah, really struggling. Last two laps, the car just wouldn't turn right. It's a real handful.
Did you pick up some damage somewhere along the line, or is it just understeer from the front tyres, perhaps struggling a little bit around this circuit?
It's the front left really wears down pretty hard. So by lap 10, you're down to about 30% just on that tyre, where the rest of the tyres are at 40-50%. So with that front left being so far down, you just can't get that car turned into the right-handers.
Yeah, you're right there. We did see you wipe the wall on the way into turn 9, which is pretty interesting, and it was getting pretty willing in that little battle there. But a bit of a change for this race, or sticking with the same setup?
I'll fiddle with the roll bars and see if that extends the life a bit, but I'm not hopeful.
Thank you, Willett, for your insights, and good luck in the next race tonight.
Thanks, mate.
I forgot to mention, Hans, I think Will's one of the gentlemen that likes to live in our chat when we're commentating. He likes to tune into the race. Brock Harvey does a similar thing and loves to flash the lights whenever we mention his name on the broadcast. So, and usually we're looking at him when we mention that name, so I should have pointed that out before. I do apologise.
Well, it's always nice to get a bit of insights from the drivers, especially when, things sort of, parts are being wiped on the walls, and, cars are sort of rubbing against each other and hip and shouldering each other. But, I think it's fascinating, because it shows they must somehow at least enjoy our commentary in some form.
Some do, some don't. Will, if you're still there, how's the Larry bar working out for you? Because we've noticed this a couple of times now. Hans has picked it up tonight, and Rhodey, who was commentating with me last week, picked it up as well. How are you feeling about using that? Is it actually giving you any good references, or is it more for show than anything else?
Strangely, it's a good luck charm. I ran it when I was at Sandown last year, and I won that race, which was my first win, so I've kept it.
Okay, well, it's almost like a good luck charm in the NFL, I guess, as well. I mean, NFL football is one of my favourite things, and apparently a lot of people don't change their jock straps when it comes to certain things, and they have certain traditions that they like to follow when it comes to being lucky. So if that works for you, it certainly seems to be working well for you in some of the latter races. Your internet disconnection issues, I guess, your only worry then.
Yeah, and paddle shifters not snapping in half.
Oh yes, I did
as well.
recall seeing that. That was it Sunday night, if memory serves me correctly, that you posted a picture of that you snapped a paddle
Yeah.
shifter.
Yeah, so tonight I'm up shifting with a paddle and down shifting with a sequential.
Oh,
So that's a lot of fun.
what we call coordination. Good luck, mate.
Thanks, mate.
I think it's fantastic when we see some of these nostalgic liveries, and not only just the liveries, but the Larry bar making a bit of an appearance as well.
Oh, there goes Cam Rutledge. So just doing some warm-up laps and just dropped it on the outside of turn number 12. And
He's done a Timo Glock, actually. You mentioned it earlier in the broadcast that he's gone and done it. So usually every race event we have here, there's always one, and that's our one for tonight.
That's our one. Very close to the Timo Glock. Not an identical replica, but it was pretty darn close. I mean, you mentioned earlier that the little divot that befell Daniel Ricciardo on the Grand Prix weekend just gone, potentially going to be removed with the track resurface. In this version of the game, it's not actually there. So it's just a bit of tarmac and runoff road. So these guys are quite lucky, I would imagine.
Well, you shouldn't be ending up there anyway. I think what's between the two yellow lines or the white lines is that you race on that, and then the rest of it is just there to look pretty.
That's exactly right. Well, if you go over the yellow lines in some areas here, you end up mowing the grass. So plenty of grass and plenty of gravel traps, and then the grass is there to look pretty, but the gravel traps are there to stop the car. So as you've seen from what happened to Daniel, grass doesn't stop the car, it just damages the car.
Yeah, really unfortunate to see that. Actually, the Renault doesn't look too bad, considering Hulkenberg was up there fighting for points. So I think he finished 7th in the end. But, Hulkenberg and Ricciardo pretty evenly matched that weekend. So imagine if Ricciardo was up there, it would have been fantastic.
Certainly would have. Well, it was a very entertaining opening start to that race as well in the Formula 1 Grand Prix. In actual fact, Hulkenberg got a lightning start from where he started on the grid and held that top 10 place for pretty much all race, apart from when the pit stops were shaking out. But no pit stops in tonight's race, and good to see that Mitchell Hathway and Brendan Foley have made their way back into the service. So that actually gives us an extra runner, because we were looking at Damon Mulqueen, was mentioning on the live chat about coming into race, so he's back for another race. And just on the provisional points situation, so factoring in the points that were scored and are official from Adelaide, and the points that are scored from tonight's first race, which is race 2 of the season. These points are provisional because obviously if there are any penalties or any disputes that need to be factored in, these are subject to change. But as it stands, by virtue of his 2 second place finishes, so second in Adelaide and second on the road tonight for the first race, is Philip Boak leads the championship provisionally at the moment with 414 points. Brendan Ross, with his first victory of the Super 2 series, has 408, so quite a tight battle there. And then we've got Mitchell Hathway. That finish of 7th place in race 1 has cost him dearly. He's surrendered the lead, but he does still score points, and he moves on to 396, so only adds 96 to his tally. There's your top 3, and then the man in 4th place is Matt Williams. He's on 315, but he's quite substantially further back due to his lesser or lower finishing result at the Adelaide round last week. The rest of the points still to be worked out. There's a couple of drivers in there that have only joined this week, so those points haven't been quite factored into their tallies yet, but given they didn't take part in the first race of the season, their points tallies are going to be substantially lower. But it'll be interesting to see how this all pans out by the end of the night. And we've only got just under 2 minutes remaining in this warm-up session. I think we've just about got everybody back in. A few drivers just trying to acclimatise to the lack of track grip that has come about because of the server reset. And the man who's got the time at the moment provisionally, 55.2 for Damon Mulqueen in the Track Star entry. And that probably would have been good enough for probably a top 8 time or actually quite well and truly in the top 8 cars, had he been able to take part in qualifying.
Yeah, really good pace at the moment from Damon. So he looks to be bettering that soon. But I think Brenton Foley set a purple sector on the first sector, so he's just in the third sector now. We'll see if Brenton Foley improves his lap in this short warm up session. Just under a minute remaining. And Dan Mulqueen, if he keeps this up, if this is his race pace, he's going to do a bloody good job.
Yeah, it's going to be certainly interesting to see. Mulqueen will be driving from the back of the grid, so too will Mitchell Hathway, so too is going to be Brenton Foley. So 3 very, very quick guys at the back of the field, and they're going to have to fight hard to get through all the cars that are not as fast as they are and dispatch them very, very quickly. And as we said before, it's a very, very difficult circuit to pass on. You've got to have commitment and a little bit of cooperation, I think, from some of the other drivers to pull the pass off.
Foley's not coming up on our timing monitor, so maybe there's a bit more of the connection issues.
It looks like an aborted lap to me, so he's done a minute 9 and he's aborted the lap. So as Mulqueen goes into the 54s, so definitely going to be interesting to see his race pace and what it's like coming up in race 2. The Synergy Sim Racing driver in for tonight's second race. Well, we take a breather, Hans, and we wait for our drivers to get themselves ready to go for race number 2. Different pole sitter, but the same person has P2, Brendan Ross. Do you think he can make it 2 from 2 on the starts?
I don't know. We'll have to see because obviously we don't know what Jamie's starts are like when he's actually got clear air in front of him. So, I mean, it could go either way. And perhaps with some of the other blokes buried in the pack, we could see some lightning starts out from the back as well.
Well, it looks like just about everybody's on the grid. A couple of stragglers still to arrive. All 19 runners still in the server, and just waiting on the last few gentlemen now. So it actually looks like Steve Burko might be starting 100% rear of grid, and with Mulqueen, Foley and Hathway ahead of him. Let's pick up our pole sitter. So here he is. Just waiting for the clock to tick over and allow the drivers to start the formation lap. And here they go. Hans, the floor is yours. Let's go through this grid and see who starts where for tonight's second race.
So Jamie Snow and the Nissan Altima pole time. And he's going to be starting off P1 down the right side of your screen. And then, which is typically the racing line here at Albert Park. Then Brendan Ross in second place. And he really converted well from that second place in our early race tonight. So, I mean, let's see if he could do it again. I mean, like I said before, it could go either way. And we've got the first of the PBF race engineering cars. So that's Phil Boak. Pretty solid performance, back in third. Then we've got Ricky Slick. Or should I say Matt Williams, depending. I use the two interchangeably. I think it's quite nice. But the second of the FCR Motorsport cars, I think he's improved on that qualifying session. So good to see him up there on the second row. Then we got another guest car. That's JP Courier from iRacing. We would typically see him, and he's having. I don't know. He's good qualifying, but not quite as good in the races, unfortunately. So then we got on the third row, rounding out the third row, that's Will Devenish in the HSV dealer team car. Like I said earlier, a bit of trouble with the left front. I mean, left front struggling around here. Generally, it is the right rear, but perhaps if he's running a bit too much scrub, he said he'll have a bit of a play with the anti-roll bars and see if he can tune that out. Then it's second of the HDS cars. It's Billy Dougal Salonga. That's in 02. We've got two identical boost cars actually, so a bit confusing, but we know that that's 02. So let's see if he can outperform his teammate today, Mitch Hathway. And so we've got Termo in the Castrol Racing. It's a bit I'm not sure if it's like Art Deco. No, not Art Deco. What, do you know your art movement, Stephen?
No, I don't know, but we'll go with Art Deco.
Perhaps not Art Deco. It's more like, Distill or something, if anyone wants to search that up. Distill. For some reason, it just reminds me of that. But anyway, Turmo is having a better run now than in the Adelaide race, and Dwayne Davies in the classic Pertec car. He's looking to really cement himself in the top 10. Then Lee Sanford, Click Studios Racing. Again, decent qualifying session. Didn't get to set a lap in his first qualifying session, unfortunately, so good to see him be able to set a lap. Then back to Cam Rutledge in 05 CRE Electrical. And turn your graphics up. That livery works for me, says Lewis Wedding. He quite enjoys it. So Cam Rutledge, he was talking about Turmo there. So but Cam Rutledge in the CRE Electrical car looking to keep out of trouble. Then back in 12th place, Brownie. The sole remaining Cracker Racing Team cars. Cracker not being able to make it to this race, unfortunately. I think he said he was in Queensland.
Turmo's around. That's Turmo. Turmo's around, and we just seen there he is there. He'll be right to recover, but he'll have to get that done. Let's quickly finish off this grid as they come around.
So we got Brody in the PBF Pro-Am cars, then Aussie, and then in 14th is Brody. Then Glenn Miles. Mitch Hathway bringing up the rear of the field, couldn't get back in for qualifying. Brenton Foley, hopefully he doesn't disconnect this race. We want to see a bit of a battle going on. Damon Mulqueen, Synergy Sim Racing, brought to you by Trackstar. And then Steve Burko bringing up the rear of the field. And look at Turmo, he's going to struggle to get in here. Let's see what the turning circle's like.
He's done a good job there.
Look at that, perfection.
All right. It's going to be Jamie Snow versus Brendan Ross off the front row. So slightly different starting grid. Watch out for Matt Williams. He's out of P4 and we know he's a perennial place getter. If he gets a good launch, watch out. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. You know what comes next. We're away. And it was again a fairly even start from the front. JP Courier's in the fence. Matt Williams got a brilliant launch, but Brendan Ross has out-dragged the pole sitter again to the starting grid, or from the starting grid to the first corner. But Matt Williams sticks his nose up the inside. He goes through to P2. Boak will now challenge him for P2. But Brendan Ross again got a better secondary launch, and he's cleared out quickly this time.
Dwayne Davies was off the road at the first corner. He just absolutely did not.
Snow down the inside. He's fighting it back with Matt Williams. Sort of cuts you off there, Hans, but he's fighting Matt Williams for P2. He'll hang it round the outside. The FCR stablemates have got 1, 2, and 3, even though one's in a guest car at the minute. But he thinks better and says, "Nah, I'll just settle in for a little bit here and hold on to third place." But good exchange early and. What happened to JP Courier? I'm not sure if he just lit it up or he got a little tap from somebody, but he was in the fence well before, actually not long after the green flag dropped.
It's been the same stalling issue he had at Adelaide, which is really unfortunate. But, Brendan Foley sliding a little bit. He's down the inside of Will Devonish, so he might get that place. We'll see. Yeah, he's got it. So he's cleared out ahead. He's about half car length in front, and he's absolutely trying to chase him down at the moment.
What on earth happened to Foley? He started from nearly the rear of the grid. He's already up to P6, and Mitchell Hathway already up to P9. So they're storming through the grid at the moment. Managed to clear the traffic very, very quickly and very, very easily, but now it starts to get a bit more challenging for number one. He's right behind his teammate. Actually should be going with him. He's on the outside, I think, of... actually, who's that on the inside of him there? Is that... Going to the inside of Phil Boak is Billy Douglas-Solonga. He gets P4, so going with him, a great job there to get ahead of the PBF cars. Now, is there going to be some team tactics here? Boak, I think, lets Foley through on the inside, but they're all over the road, and Boak now switches back to the inside of Foley, so has the ground for turn 15. Foley's going to have the line for 16. Devonish is keeping a watching brief on this, saying, yes, my pretties, just keep fighting. And now they're going to have a 3-car drag in a straight line, all the way down to turn number 1. But Brendan Ross, again, great lap. He leads lap 1, and he's got margin 2.
Jamie Snow's incidentally got up to second position, so that puts Matt Williams back to third. Then Douglas Longer, I think he looked like he was about to snooker the two PBF cars together, so that would have been a little bit... that would have grinned a little bit sheepishly there. They would have ended up snookered off the track, unfortunately.
Well, Foley now back down the inside of Douglas Solonga, and now Philip Boak's trying to have a look here as well, because Hathway's moved up to 8th, and he's one of the back of this 5-car battle at the moment that you can see there just watching. And Foley's off the road, so that got a compromised exit, but he was a bit far enough ahead of this battle to not have to worry about surrendering a place. And Boak now having a bit of a look again on the inside of Solonga for 5th place here. And this is just music to the ears of the guys behind, because now that Billy checks out and moves away a bit, it puts Phil Boak under immediate pressure from Devonish, and Devonish under pressure from Hathway. So this is really battling hard between these 4 cars, and battling hard really, really early in a 12-lap race. But it's a sprint format, and you've got to get as many positions as you can in a very short space of time.
Oh, he looked like he wiped the wall a little bit there, Boak. So he needs to be real careful at the moment when he's trying to make a pass that he doesn't come under threat from Will Devonish, and Will Devonish with the same for Mitch Hathway. So they're actually coming up quite through the field quite quickly. So and Boak is through now. So let's see if Will Devonish goes with him. Bit of hip and shoulder action. He's actually made that stick. So well done. And Hathway, his teammate, wants a bit of the action as well.
Yeah, hung Billy Dougal-Solonga out there, did Will Devonish, and now Hathway's going to have a look around the outside. That'll give him some position for 16 if he can hang on to it, but he can't, so now he's going to have to follow his teammate, and that gives a little bit of breathing room to Phil Boak, because now Will Devonish becomes the cork in the champagne bottle for the 2 HDS cars behind, and he's going to have to contend with a very, very quick pair of ZB Commodores on his VF as they round turn 2 and now head down towards turn 3 on lap 3, and it's an FCR 1-2-3 if you count Jamie Snow, he's part of that stable, and a PBF 4-5, and then the battle's having a look at Will. So there's a bit of contact back there.
The 2 teammates together. No, oh no, that is not what we want to see at all. We know you've got to beat your teammate. That's your number 1 goal, but unfortunately I think Hathaway perhaps made a bit of a mistake there. He got a bit locked up.
Well, let's have a look at the replay and see if we can pick this up, because he came from a long way back. Let's see if we can grab an onboard from the bonnet cam. Yeah, from a long way back. Couldn't get it stopped. Could not get it stopped.
I think that's perhaps a bit of frustration setting in, and when that starts to happen, when you start to get a bit angry, you start to make mistakes.
Absolutely. Well, he started very, very close to the rear of the grid, and he's made up 9 places. Well, the 9th place that he made up has a little bit of a question mark over it. That's not, as you said, Hans, that's not the sort of thing we want to see. You want to beat your teammate, but you've got to be doing it fairly. Look how much track he uses right out to the wall to sweep in for turn number 11 as well. Well, we looked at after the race. That was a very, very ballsy move. I thought maybe he might have thought that his teammate was leaving the door open for him, but he went in there with way too much pace down into turn 3 and runs.
I think he's got a problem. I think he's got the same issue with worn tyres, perhaps.
Well, he's run deep there. He did what Will Devonish did a couple of times in that first race, running it deep at turn 13. Couldn't get it stopped again. Not sure if he's got any steering damage or all that, but he's certainly carrying on for the moment. It looks all right. No real visible signs of damage, so he might have gotten away with something. Brendan Ross with the fastest lap of 54.950, immediately surpassed by Boak with a 54.77. And look who's coming through the field here. Sorry to cut you off there. Look who's coming through the field here. It's Damon Mulqueen.
Mulqueen coming up. His Turmo was definitely going to be under threat. He ran off the road at turn 12, and Mulqueen almost went with him, in fact. But Mulqueen is actually doing a really good job at the moment. One of the Pro-Am cars. Yep,
and flying the flag for Synergy Sim Racing. The well-known personality of AMS Oz is Brenton Hobson, who quite famously runs the Synergy Sim Racing colours, and a 2-time champion in not only Super Series but also in the Porsche Cup, a champion as well, and did very, very well in supercars last year too. So Synergy Sim Racing, good to see them back running in AMS Oz. Meanwhile, out front, Brendan Ross has not got the same sort of margin that he had on Jamie Snow for a while, but look at this. Now they've got the Matt Williams is in a PBF sandwich, so he's made a mistake somewhere and now is very much under pressure from Boak. Foley's already through. Boak harassing the back of the VF Commodore of Matt Williams, and now down to, I guess we can call it the treacherous turn 13, because a few guys seem to be making some mistakes down here. Oh, and speaking of mistakes, Foley makes a mistake.
Off the road, no.
Well, we weren't watching him directly, but we were saying, speaking of the subject of mistakes, and Foley just makes one almost on cue and hands 3rd place back to Matt Williams. So out in front, still Brendan Ross, He's got 2 and a bit seconds on Jamie Snow. As they come across the line.
These blokes need to be careful here, otherwise they're going to let Ross and Snow absolutely run away with this. So they need to stop tearing each other apart and start actually working together. So they stay line astern. I mean, depends who's the cork in the bottle. We haven't really seen much in terms of who being out the front and if they are the cork in the bottle, but it looks like Foley's going to go around the outside. He's going to try it.
Yep, going to try the move. It's worked for a few people. Down here at turn 3. Elbows out. Fair racing room left and gets the job done. Good job, Foley. So an exchange of positions a couple of times over the course of the last 5.3 kilometres of track. So Foley on Matt Williams. Matt Williams gets Foley back through a mistake, and now Foley repasses Williams. So that's a good little battle. But all this fighting and squabbling is not only allowing Brendan Ross and Jamie Snow to check out in front, but look who it's dragging back into the equation here.
It's Will Devonish again. He's just lurking in the background. And he always maintains his watching brief with the HSV dealer team number 15. But, I think Foley absolutely needs to get his head down. He's got clear air at the moment. He needs to try and catch Jamie Snow if he wants to be in a chance to getting some points on the board.
He certainly does. And the man who needs the points more than ever is Foley. As we keep saying, he has not scored in either of the 2 races that have happened so far this season and needs quite a fistful of points. That Williams saw Boat go for the inside line and feint to the inside and immediately went defensive, and there was a little bit of Morse code there on the rear bumper, I guess I wouldn't say in dispute or in protest, but more a case of, I'm still here.
I think he had already committed to the corner by the time Williams moved over, so I think it's just one of those things. You expect nothing's going to be there, and then you're met with the rear bar of a VF Commodore. Good time from Brendan Ross too, 54.5. No one really bettering it on this particular lap out of the leading 6 runners. Matt Williams hangs on for a little bit. A bit of exchange of position here. It looks like, hip and shoulders are out between Damon Mulqueen and Billy Dougal-Solonga, I think that is. And I think I'm not sure if he decided to cede position there after they bumped, but stations as they were for at least another couple of corners. But Damon Mulqueen definitely got his elbows out, and he's made a good amount of ground from the rear of the grid, and it'd be nice to for him to get some points under his belt as well. I think the bumping went quite a long time down the main straight and then into turn 1 and 2. So Mulqueen just getting out of that one, he knew that there are going to be no prizes here. But midway part of the race now, we're about 31.5 kilometres in. So let's see what the run home brings to us.
Well, working the half distance lap as we speak right now. As Mulqueen have a look down here into turn 9. It's a passing opportunity at 9, but if you've got to be really committed to it.
Big lock up by
it's Dougal-Solonga. And you're right, and that's given Mulqueen the incentive. Now he's on the wrong side here, but he's got the pace, and can he hang it around the outside? Can he go deep enough to get it done? I think Billy backed out of that one and thought, no, we're not going side by side through here. But he has a bit of a sneaky look at the inside here, trying to see if he can get a bit of overlap, but Mulqueen's got the job done. That's a very solid pass. Good job.
Good to see Synergy SimSport they're actually representing today, so fantastic to see. Oh, there's a lock-up. I think that's Hathway.
Yep, that certainly is. That certainly is, and that'll be positions. He'll surrender to 2 positions there, Mitchell Hathway. Again, turn 13 seems to be quite a bugbear for a number of drivers today. Let's see if we can pick up what happened to him again from the onboard. Yeah, missed his braking marker.
He's turning the wheel, nothing's happening. That wheel is stopped and it won't do any turning at all.
And actually ran through the brake marker there. Lucky not to clobber the brake marker. But for the moment, he's down to P9. So some points going begging. He's made 7 places, so he's cleared nearly half the field. But some points definitely going begging. And his wonderful win at Adelaide last week has sort of been a little bit soured by a couple of mistakes that he's made, and also obviously leaving tyres on the car there. But have a look at Brendan Ross, and Foley has moved up into P2, so we haven't been keeping some tabs on what's going on here, but obviously Jamie Snow's made a little bit of a mistake somewhere and has come back to Foley, and now he's through, and Matt Williams up to P4, and holding off Phil Boak, or continuing to hold off Phil Boak, but Foley's past Snow, and Foley's checking out here. So what's happened to Jamie Snow? Is he had a bad lap somewhere? We'll have a look through the times to see what we can find, and it must be this lap actually. He had a poor first sector in the lap, just in this current lap. This middle sector's all right, so he's dropped 2 seconds, and that's where Foley pounced. So he must have run off the road somewhere.
Yeah, good to see Foley. He's getting up there. He's, like you said, he's putting his head down. He's trying to get on with it. And if someone makes a mistake up front, he's ready to capitalise. So it's getting pretty willing up the back, though. Oh, Williams, he's moving around. He's really sliding that car. Oh, that's Snow. He's off the road. So bit of understeer issues there.
Well, he went off the road there at turn 15, and that's not a spot where you want to go off the road, because if you've got the trailing cars are too close behind you, they might just have a nibble at you into turn 1. I think Snow might have just enough margin to hang on here, and he does. So it's Snow heading Williams, Boak, and Devonish, and that's all over 3, 4, 5, and 6. And meanwhile, Damon Mulqueen still heads the 2 HDS racing cars for in that battle over 7th, 8th and 9th. Termo in the Castrol racing car rounds out the top 10. But let's see what Foley can do now that he's got a little bit of clean air, because he really needs to hunt down Brendan Ross. He was a bit slower that lap time around. He's actually 5/10 slower, so he's only got 5 laps to rein him in, but he's got quite a deficit to do it. He's got a 5-second deficit. He's really going to need to flick the switch and get going. So where is he on track at the moment? So here he is, and yeah, it's still a margin, still sitting at 5 seconds. Are actually very, very well matched through Sector 1. They both did 37.8s in Sector 1. So Foley's going to be very heavily reliant on a mistake from Brendan Ross to close this gap down in the remaining 4.5 laps.
Fastest lap of the race is Brendan Foley in the number 1 car, 1:54.06. So he's clearly got some good pace on board, but Rossi, he's been able to respond so far. So let's see how it goes.
Well, he's managed to chop a 10th off, but a 10th is not going to give you very much. Meanwhile, Snow still under pressure. Look at this down the inside. They're looking at him all. Matt Williams is defending hard, as well as trying to get the passing move done on Jamie Snow. And Will Devonish is now trying to get up the inside of Philip Boak, but somehow they all managed to get back into their original positions. Boak tries to go with Snow here, and this will hang Matt Williams on the outside for 15, but if he can stay there, it'll give him the inside for 16, and he does. And now he's running side by side with Jamie. Jamie uses all of the exit road, and now who decides to go with who? So Boak just decides, bugger it, I'm going down the middle. But he's not got any partners to go with, and there's no draft help here either. So Williams is going to retain 4th, Snow will retain 3rd, and Devonish goes right round the outside and manages to get the pair of them, manages to get Boak and Williams. What a great move by Devonish, but now can he make anything happen with Jamie Snow? He's got the inside line. This could be 3 cars in 3 corners for Will Devonish, and according to our timing screens, it certainly is, but Matt Williams says, nah, I'm not having any of this. I'm sticking my nose up the inside. These guys are almost fighting over sheep stations here. But Will Devonish gets to the front, and he was, a few minutes ago, he was 6th. Now he's 3rd.
Well, that's how you capitalise, and that's what he's a real specialty at these last few races. And are we watching Supercars or Super 2, or are we watching a Formula V race? Because honestly, over the line, they look just like a bunch of Formula Vs at Phillip Island coming over the line.
Oh, they certainly did, and I'm sure Ben Rhodes would say exactly the same thing. They were all fanned out there looking for the optimal line, and nobody wanted to draft with anybody else, and the draft in Formula Vs is supreme if you get a perfect run down some of these straights. But Devonish now kicks away, and now Matt Williams is the man back under pressure, and he's under pressure from Phil Boak, and Snow's been shuffled all the way back to 6th in all that banter as well. But they've got 3 and a bit laps to go, and out in front Ross still heads Foley, and the gap is coming down, so the gap is down to 3 seconds.
Ooh,
Matt Williams.
Oh, he's deep, and he's off the road into the sand trap.
Well, he committed to that. He's going to surrender position to Mulqueen as well, so that drops him right back to 7th. He will be very, very disappointed with that. But we spoke about commitment to passing. That is a passing opportunity down at turn 13, but you've got to get it pulled up, and you've got to get it pulled up on the dime, and he didn't manage to do that. And now Mulqueen's having a look around the inside of a vulnerable Philip Boak and doesn't quite get there. Now he's going to have a look down the inside, I'd imagine, at turn number 1. So don't rule Mulqueen out of moving up to P3. He's on an absolute tear. Down the inside he goes. And Boak says, no. A little bit later on the brakes, and he manages to hold station for the moment. But live timing showing that these cars are separated by, a snap of the fingers at the moment. And now Jamie Snow's putting the pressure back onto the back of Will Devonish for that final podium spot. Foley's been eating into Brendan Ross, but he's not eating into him in enough chunks that it's going to be significant enough to put him under threat by the end of this race. But this is really where the battle's at, the final podium position.
Yeah, Devonish has made quite an improvement on this car in this race. He's had to play with the anti-roll bars. If you don't know, it's you go when you want a bit more front grip, you go softer on the front anti-roll bar or a bit harder on the rear anti-roll bar. And Jamie Snow down the inside. Oh, he didn't quite get that, so there was a bit of overlap there, and they've come together. But Will Devonish, he's going to go around the outside. He's going to try and get some momentum. And Jamie Snow, he's just pulling ahead. He's on the preferred line of that corner on the curve straight. And he's line astern once again. So Jamie Snow back in the third place.
Back into third place. Can he stay there is the next question. There's 2 laps remaining, and this is a humdinger of a battle for the final podium position. It's good. And actually, that might have been the reason why the gap's starting to come down. Look, the gap has come down quite an awful lot. Who's that back there? I think that's Aussie. He's missing a bonnet, so there would have been some lap traffic for the 2 race leaders to negotiate, and that's why the gap is now down to less than 3 seconds. As they come across the line, what is it? 1.7. This is on. This is not over yet. Have a look at the battle still raging on back there out of the final turn. Where's Damon Mulqueen? I saw him in this. They're fanned out 3 wide. Mulqueen's going to have a nibble down the inside of Phil Boak into turn 1. Which is where he tried last time. Nope.
You should see how aggressively Phil Boak just turned across the nose of Damon Mulqueen there. Mulqueen had to get out of it. He just wasn't quite far enough up, and he's just like, no, I'm going to take this corner. We're playing for keeps now, boys. And
in all of this, Devonish has managed to get a couple of car lengths on these 2. Snow locks up into turn number 3. Has a little bit of a moment as well. That allows Boak round the outside of 4 and will be on the inside for 5, and he'll have the inside line for 6. Or did we just lose Will Devonish? I think we did.
No, we've lost Will Devonish. I think he's a DNF.
The internet connection gremlins strike again for poor Will Devonish. He was driving so well. He was out there in third place, and now this becomes the battle for P3. And Snow realises it. Sides down the inside at turn number 10. Turn number 9 that was. Now onto turn 10. But the PBF Race Engineering driver holds third place for the time being.
It's getting pretty wild now. There's only about 1.5 laps to go. And let's see if we might go up back to Brenton Foley and see how he's going, because I think he's managed
He's right with him.
He's right with him. There we go. So this is going to be a change for the lead, perhaps.
Well, we're going to stay with these 2 for the moment. There's a little bit of rat-a-tat-tat on the rear plastic bumper of that 444 FCR Motorsport car. But the whistle is out and the white flag is out with 1 more lap to go, and Foley on a tear. Ross is defending hard. And he has a compromised line for the inside for turn number 1, but he managed to make the apex, whereas Foley did not. Now, down to turn number 3, they run. This is going to be the challenge.
Phil Boak might have a problem. I'm seeing he's just dropping down. He's dropping down to 9th.
Where's Phil Boak in all of this? He's coming into the pits, so something's happened to Phil Boak. Developing story. Let's return to the race leaders.
We'll have to chase that one up. We'll have to see. We'll have to ask him what happened in that race.
Well, we'll dial into that as soon as this race is over and see what happened, because that's very, very unexpected. So something's happened to Phil Boak, whether there's not enough fuel or whether there was some damage or something that he needed to repair, but he would have just, with a lap to go, he would have just raced it out. So it must be fuel. Here goes Foley, looking at the inside of Brendan Ross, and he sides down the inside and gets it done and stops it beautifully, and just done enough there to arrest the momentum, albeit temporarily for Brendan Ross, but Ross is still going to fight back, and he managed to get a good enough exit out of turn 10 that he'll still be a threat down here coming into 11 and 12. He just needs to run with him.
That car was absolutely on the braking limit. He could not brake 1 centimetre later. And Brendan Ross, he looks to be a bit flustered here because he's dropping back a little bit. He's struggling. But Brenton Foley, how about that? What a move. What a fantastic move. Oh, they're struggling into turn 13. Everyone's struggling into turn 13. It's getting pretty wild and willing, but Brendan Ross, fantastic effort. He's led 11 out of 12 laps, but it's most important that you lead the last lap over the finish line.
And look who's moved up to P3.
Up to third place.
And look who's moved up to P3. So with going off the road or going into the pits, Philip Boak, it promotes Mulqueen to third place. He's pounced on that, with Jamie Snow also moving back to P7. So Matt Williams now to P4. So what a drive from Damon Mulqueen. And also what a drive from Foley. Foley from what was 17th on the grid to first. Brendan Ross manages to hang on for P2. So great job from Brendan Ross. So a first and a second for tonight's action. Not too shabby at all. And a great result for Damon Mulqueen. Third place. Matt Williams fourth. Mitchell Hathway recovers to fifth. So by all those drivers dropping off the road, he inherits fifth. And his teammate sixth place. Jamie Snow will finish seventh. So from a front row start to a seventh place finish, Termo manages to get eighth. So he started in eighth and he finishes eighth. JP Courier recovers to ninth after his session with the wall off the starting grid. And Steve Burko, who started at the very back of the grid, finishes 10th.
Boy, oh boy, what a race that was.
Certainly a lot of action in that squabble, what ultimately came, was decided for third place, but we're going to have to get some developing stories to see what on earth happened to some of these drivers. So the likes of Phil Boak, actually, here's Philip Boak, so he's finished 14th, so I'm wondering whether or not there was a little bit of damage or a damaged tyre or some fuel issues, so something's not right there. And also with whatever happened to Jamie Snow. So, Ben, I'm going to say something that you probably don't want to hear, and that is you can't do a smoke show in the gravel.
I'm surprised it didn't get bogged in the gravel. He looked like he was digging a trench in there.
Yep. Now that's how you do a smoke show. So Foley's really, really happy. He's finally got some points on the board, and it's 150 of them for his race win in tonight's second race, or race 3 of the calendar season. And boy, is he pleased about that.
Oh, he definitely needed those points more than anyone tonight. So there we go. He's those tyres definitely aren't getting used again.
No, certainly not. Well, we're just going to wait to see who joins us in the box. We're hoping to get the top 3 guys in. So
thankfully, the commentary box is not too far away from the actual pit lane, so they can all just run up here, and unless Martin Brundle catches them along the way. But we've got a few blokes populating us now, so we'll have a chat to let's see if our third place getter can come in.
Yeah, he's not here just yet, so maybe we start with the top-down approach this time.
Okay, let's go with the top-down approach. So race winner, Brenton Foley, car number 1, PBF Race Engineering. Fantastic effort, mate. Well done. You've left it to the last lap to get it done, and at turn 9 as well.
It's about time I stayed in the race for once. I'm sorry, I got to fix my mic. Just got a ripper start, thread the needle through the pack, and that's pretty much what I needed to do in lap 1. And after that, it was just kind of pick them off. My tyres kind of overheated them a little bit, battling with Matt in the middle to let them calm down a little bit, and then just started plugging away at those lap times. I had a fair few moments. I almost put it in the fence quite a few times, but I was just pulling out quality laps.
Yeah, that was absolutely. I mean, you couldn't have left it later because obviously you wouldn't have gotten the race win. But fantastic effort. Good to see that you got some points on the board. Maybe not a grin from ear to ear tonight, but you got to have a wry smile on your face, mate.
Oh, I'm really happy with that race. It kind of makes up for not being in the first one. Still pretty peeved off that I've dropped so many points for something that I feel isn't really my fault, but that's what I'm dealt with, so I'm just making the most of the races to come.
And
the 4G mobile internet held out.
Yeah. And Brenton, the one thing we do want to pick up on here is your teammate had to come into the pits at the end of the penultimate lap. What happened there? Was he short on fuel, or what was happening for him?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I completely stayed out of Discord because I was in a pretty foul mood, and so I haven't spoken to him.
All right. Well, we'll see if we can get a debrief from him. But job well done on your first win of the season. And Hans, the man who finished P2, certainly does no harm in his championship points haul either tonight.
No, definitely a lot. And he's continuing his good run tonight. And Brennan Ross, good to see you're up there, but not quite the result you were wanting, but still a solid haul of points.
Yes, can't complain with this weekend at all. Probably not overly disappointed about race 2, but probably put a little too easy for Foley to pass in the end. But definitely well done to him. He definitely had the pace starting right at the back, so he done well there. But overall, really good weekend to step on both first and second on the podium.
What do you say about those starts? Do you reckon there's a bit of a formula going on?
There might be a bit of a formula, but how I do it, and yeah, I really don't know. It's just a matter of getting all your eggs lined up.
Very, very nice effort, mate. Good to see. And I mean, we mentioned it before, the progression of yourself from Pro-Am driver to now Pro class driver. And I mean, you're really mixing it up with the big boys and you're showing them that you're here to stay.
Yeah, well, definitely stepping it up into the FCR Motorsport bunkers definitely helped all the skills progress to where they are. So I can't thank the team enough for all the help they've done.
Well done tonight, Rossi. Very solid effort, mate. Well done.
Cheers, guys.
And on to our third place getter, Darren Mulqueen. I mean, another late job and starting from the back, but you've managed to make your way up there.
Yeah, it was a bit of a quickly get home from work and get into the race, and seems to have paid off all right.
Yeah, well done. Imagine if you actually managed to qualify. It would have been fantastic. We could have been seeing some bit more fireworks out the front.
Going off the whole not being in the first race, I didn't actually feel I should start up somewhere around the front and actually go off because I accidentally joined Server Prix warm-up. So I thought I'd start off the back off everyone else should, and just decided to see how I can pick my way through the field, and it's not bad.
Yeah, well done. Congratulations on a fantastic effort, and really repping the old Trackstar racewear, Dan Houlihan. Trackstar racewear.
You know, it's really good to have Dan on board. Being part of SSR definitely helps with that. And it looks really good on that car, doesn't it? All over the side.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of well-presented cars, but the nice bright blue, it definitely sticks out. Damon, congratulations tonight. Well done.
Cheers, mate.
Well, that's your top 3 from race 2 of tonight's action. Race 3 in the series. We've got a pair of sprint races to come in a couple of weeks' time, which will be on the 11th of April. And that takes us to the little circuit, I guess, down in the Apple Isle that it always delivers some interesting action, Hans. Simmons Plains.
Yeah, another track with a few curve straights. So, I mean, it's basically 2 big long straights and a couple of hairpins at the end of it. So, I mean, definitely the sort of, turn 3 is going to be all action, especially seeing, probably upwards of 18 cars, let's hope. But, 18 to 20 cars, it's going to be fantastic seeing that all fan out on the first lap, and hopefully they can all stay out of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. The drag strip front and back straights, as they often call them, punctuated by a couple of turns. So only 7 turns in that circuit, and not a lot of room, especially on the run down to that hairpin. But we will see you in a few weeks for that event. Mark it on your calendars. It's going to be April the 11th. There'll be races 4 and 5 in the sprint format for the AMS Oz Super 2. But until then, thank you very much, Hans, for coming in to occupy the box with me this evening.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. Always a pleasure.
And that's us done for the night. So until next time, as always, please drive safely, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.